My toxic best friend is literally trying to sabotage my relationship with another coworker, as she is actively making up rumors about my girlfriend in a way that would try to make her look bad and ruin my relationship. And even though I've cut this person off and I've decided that I don't want to be friends with her anymore, I'm now starting to feel guilty and wonder if I maybe took things just a bit too far, because at this point, I seriously just don't know what to do anymore. Here's how it all started. I'm a 25-year-old male and I've been close with my friend, who I will call Sarah, for about 2 years now. We work at the same company, and honestly, she was the person who helped me survive my first year here. We've always been super tight, the kind of friends who grab drinks after a shift and vent about everything. I've always felt like I could be 100% open with her, which is very rare for me. Well, the vibe shifted about 3 months ago when I started seeing someone who I will call Rachel. Rachel doesn't work in our department, but she's in the same building, so we all just kind of end up in the same break room or at the same happy hours. As soon as I told Sarah I was serious about Rachel, the fake humor started. At first, it was subtle. Sarah would make comments about Rachel's outfits or her annoying laugh. But then it got weirder. In front of our other coworkers, Sarah started spreading rumors about Rachel. Basically, she would just start making up stories or exaggerating things to try and make Rachel look incompetent or high maintenance. She would say things like, "Oh, I heard Rachel almost blew that presentation last week," followed up by her saying, "Oh, just kidding. But seriously, you should probably pick someone more on your level. She's way too much drama for you." Now, the problem is, Rachel is actually super chill and hasn't done anything to her. Well, last week it finally peaked. We were at a group lunch and Sarah started joking about how Rachel is only dating me to get closer to a promotion in my department. It was really awkward, nobody laughed, and Rachel looked visibly upset. When I pulled Sarah aside later to tell her to knock it off, she got super defensive. She told me she's just looking out for me because she knows me better than anyone and that I'm being blinded by a pretty face. I then asked her straight up if she had feelings for me, and she laughed in my face and called me egotistical and said, "Well, I just hate seeing you settle for trash." But honestly, I've had enough. The workplace is becoming toxic because Sarah is now giving me the cold shoulder, as well as telling our mutual work friends that I'm choosing a girl that I just met over a loyal friend. And with that, I decided to officially cut her off. I stopped sitting with her at lunch and I only really talked to her about work-related things, not to mention the fact that I blocked her on everything else. But now some of our coworkers are saying that I'm being too harsh and that I'm throwing away a real friendship over a girl I've only known for a few months. They think I should just ignore her quirks because she's been there for me in the past. But I just feel like I'm protecting my relationship and my peace of mind. But even then, the guilt is starting to creep in because we were so close. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Like, am I out of line for blocking Sarah? Because right now I don't know what else to do. Okay, you are definitely not the jerk. She is clearly jealous of the fact that you're dating Rachel instead of her. I don't care what anybody says. Sarah absolutely had a thing for you, and now that you're showing interest in another woman, she is freaking out. She's doing anything she can to make Rachel look bad, to try and tear her down in front of her face, and literally just ruin this relationship for you as some kind of way of getting like secret jealous revenge against you for picking Rachel over her. And I only say that because this is something I've seen personally firsthand, like in real time, and what you're describing is almost exactly like what I personally saw. Like, it's almost uncanny to an extent, except for the fact that you actually block Sarah instead of just accepting her quirks, which other people want you to do. Like, that is really dumb. I would never do that in a million years. And neither should you if you ask me. So no, I would block her as well. I would cut her completely out of my life, like right then and there. Because if she really was a friend, then she would be encouraging me and like try to become friends with Rachel. And since she's doing the opposite of that, it kind of leads me to believe that she did have a crush on you, and she's now pissed off that you went after Rachel instead of her. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for breaking up with my fiancé without really telling him why, after I caught him in the act of cheating on me at a restaurant with another woman? Because right now, it feels like my entire life has fallen apart, as I'm now on the cusp of literally canceling wedding plans and realizing that my life with him is essentially coming to a close. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's how it all started. To start things out, I had a fiancé who I will call Andrew for the sake of the story. And from the very beginning, our relationship felt steady and intentional, not rushed or dramatic. Just two people choosing each other every day. We met through mutual friends, and we started as late night chats and long walks home, and slowly built routines that made us feel like a team. By our third year together, we were engaged. We were proud of how we handled money, careers, and plans like adults who wanted something lasting and not just romantic. We decided to marry on our 5th anniversary so we could save properly and avoid starting our marriage in debt. So we made spreadsheets for expenses, talked about where we would live, and even joked about what our weekends would look like as a married couple. Every overtime shift, he mentioned mentioned sounded like another step toward that shared future, and I trusted him because he had always been consistent before. But the changes came quietly. He stopped picking me up after work, saying he had to come in early or stay late for extra income. Our weekends became sideline work, or him saying he's too tired, and our conversations shrank into quick updates instead of like real time together. I really missed him, but I kept telling myself this was temporary, and that this was what commitment looked like when two people were working towards something bigger. Well, one Friday, my coworker invited me to dinner after work. I messaged him out of habit, asking if he could pick me up so we could go together, and he said he had overtime again. Now, I agreed, still trusting him, until he walked into the restaurant and I saw him sitting across from another girl, leaning toward her the way that he used to lean towards me. I didn't confront him there. I asked my coworker if we could go somewhere else, pretending I suddenly didn't like the place. When I got home, I looked at our wedding plans and I realized I was the only one still living in them. I sent a short message saying that we're done. I blocked him, and then I sat in the quiet knowing that losing the relationship hurt less than staying in a future that he had already left. Up until now, he didn't show up and question me why, because I think he knows already. So am I the jerk for not telling him the reason why we broke up? Because right now, I really don't know what to do with my life. Okay, first off, I just want to say this is terrible. Andrew is a piece of garbage. This guy literally threw away his future for some other idiot, and that really sucks, but I think there is a silver lining here. You at least see that, yeah, you know what, I would rather leave now than find out later that he's cheating on me when I already tie the knot. Can you imagine the kind of headache you would go through trying to get away from this guy? Because yeah, weddings are great, but holy crap, getting divorced is awful. Sure, sometimes it can be for good reasons, but most times it's basically because something went wrong and both of these people need to get away from each other. So at least that's a silver lining. At least you know now that this guy's a cheating piece of garbage and you can try to rebuild your life from here. Because at the end of the day, you don't owe this guy any explanation. Because you already got the closure you need when you blocked him after you saw him actively cheating on you, which is awful, and I'm so sorry you're going through that. Am I the jerk for choosing not to change my lifestyle just to accommodate my neighbors who claim I'm making way too much noise? Because after a recent confrontation they had with me and my husband, I decided that I'm just not going to help them out at all, and I don't know if I'm making a mistake. Here's what's going on. Okay, you really need to strap in for this one because this is kind of a long one and it gets a little bit weird. A few months ago, my fiancé and I bought our first apartment. It took years of saving and 6 months of renovation, but we finally managed to move in at the end of January. I've recently been laid off for economic reasons, and to top it off, I have trouble relaxing and just being lazy around during the day. If the sun is out, I feel the need to go do stuff. Well, as a consequence of that, my only real time to relax is at night, when I do not feel any internal pressure to be active. You might imagine that as an unemployed night owl, my bedtime is a little bit dephased with the rest of society, and it is not rare for me to go to bed at 5 o'clock in the morning. When renovating the kitchen and living area, we realized that the concrete slab rigidifying my hardwood floor had been damaged by an old downstairs neighbor to attach their ceiling fan directly into my floor beams. This means that there's basically no acoustic insulation between the two floors, and the lack of rigidity due to the slab being broken creates a lot of vibrations. So when we moved in, my downstairs neighbors quickly came to tell us that the noise from the floor vibrating was a big issue for them, and so we started walking carefully around the house during the evening. One night, I was about to go to bed at 4:30 in the morning when the neighbors come by and tell me that my moving around is basically ruining her life. She can't sleep, she's getting psychological issues just because I move around at night. Now, of course I say sorry, and I actually get a call from their landlord the next day asking me to go and try to appease the situation. Obviously, I genuinely feel sorry, so I go to see her and I say that I do empathize, that I will make efforts to be as silent as possible, but that I can't change my entire lifestyle to suit her sleeping schedule. A few days later, her husband comes back from a trip, and having heard his wife cry repeatedly on the phone, all because of sleep deprivation, he comes to my door to confront me, and at the time it was about 10 o'clock p.m. This guy then tells me that I'm a savage making way too much noise, but when I tell him I'm already walking as silently as I can, literally on my toes, he straight up calls me a liar. I then decide to close the door to put an end to this stupid discussion, but he actually blocks the door with his foot and tries to force his way in. Things start to heat up and my fiance separates us, and then he's shouting at us for another 30 minutes in the hallway. But you know what? I went to the police the next day just to record the incident. The only way we managed to cool things down was to promise that I would go to bed at 11 o'clock p.m., which I'm obviously not going to do, especially for someone who tried to invade my house. Now, I understand her plight and I really empathize, but I'm in my home and I won't self-impose some kind of curfew. So am I the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would be talking to like building management and going over all the damage you discovered on your floor from the people below you. Like seriously, if there's no acoustic insulation between the two floors, then how is this your problem, especially if you just came into the apartment? Like I'm not kidding, this really does sound like a them problem and not a you problem. So that's personally what I would do. I would go to them immediately and be like, dude, something is wrong with the floor, they screwed with it, and they need to fix it. Because holy crap, there's no reason you should be walking around on eggshells in an apartment. And trust me, I get it. There's noise all the time in those kind of buildings. There's not much you can do about it, and it is what it is. But even walking around is causing them to be like, I can't sleep. I can't stand it. Like, no, I think you're being a little melodramatic, and it's probably not that bad. So no, I don't think you're the jerk. I think your neighbors are just complete weirdos, and this is probably going to be a thing until they fix their mistake. Because you literally just bought the apartment, and this absolutely is not your fault. Am I the jerk for offering to pay for my friend and his wife to get a babysitter just so they could finally hang out with the group again for the first time in a while? But now as a result of me saying that, I think I really offended them by accident. And at this point, I don't know how to fix this. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to just say at the top of this that at face value, this sounds ridiculous. But I think what happened is they felt financially insulted. Like they felt I was looking down on them or something like that. I have a close friend who I will call Rob for the sake of the story. I've known him since freshman year of high school. I was in his wedding party. I'm close with his parents, and he is essentially my brother from another mother. I love the guy immensely. His wife, who I'll call Katie, is also a sweetheart. She can be anxious and stresses easily depending on the situation, but she loves Rob immensely, and I know she treats him right. So in my book, she's a good woman. Genuinely, no ill feelings towards her. Rob and Katie have 2 kids, 2 girls to be specific. They've disappeared from the social circle for a bit, and I know it's likely because money is tight and they're exhausted. After putting out an invite to a hangout at a restaurant with our social circles, Rob gave his typical "we'll see, no promises." So in response, I said, well, if it would help out, I'd be willing to Venmo you money for a babysitter for the girls. That way you and Katie have less to worry about. Katie apparently got really upset when she saw this, as she is in the same group chat, and I only found out about her being upset when Rob messaged me. And I really think I embarrassed them when I genuinely wasn't trying to be a jerk. And this is where I know I'm wrong. I made an assumption. I mean, I had no business suggesting money was the issue, and I think that's where this came from. I also should not have asked him that question in a group chat with all of our friends. I should have just direct messaged him. I sent Katie and Rob an apology message, and I told them straight up, I never meant to cross a boundary or insult you or embarrass you. I just miss having you in my life. Please don't let one mistake on my part ruin our friendship. I'm genuinely sorry. I haven't heard back yet, but I'm hoping Rob can get her to understand I didn't mean anything by it, and that I genuinely wasn't trying to alienate them. I'm the kind of guy who will sometimes talk or jump on a topic without thinking, and I feel like this was one of those times. So am I the jerk here? Because I really just don't know what to do. Okay, yeah, the original poster is definitely the jerk. It is incredibly rude to be like, oh, you can't afford to go out? Let me give you some money. He says in the group chat, like, dude, what are you doing? If someone says they can't do something, then guess what? That's the end of it. I understand that you try to reach out and be like, no, come on, like I want to convince you to come and hang out. But they have kids, like their entire situation is way different than yours. They have 2 little girls that they're taking care of. The days of them just dropping what they're doing and going to hang out are far gone. So for you to be like, oh, I'll give you money, because clearly money's the issue, or at least implying that, is just really over the line. So yeah, I do think you're the jerk, but from the sounds of it, it kind of seems like this is unintentional. So hopefully Katie and Rob will forgive you sooner than later. Am I the jerk for refusing to associate with people who treated me badly when I was overweight? Because now that I'm in like a little bit better shape and kind of fit, I'm starting to see these people for what they really are. And I'm seriously so pissed off at them that I just don't know what to do about this. Here's what's happening. Okay, so as you can probably tell, I used to be overweight, and in the last few years, I've lost it and I'm now fit. But during that time I was overweight, there were people in my life or at work who would demean me for it. Those same people are now suddenly friendly and kind towards me, and while I'm not exactly chewing them out or telling them off, I'm also not exactly being friendly back. One person came up to me today for giving them the cold shoulder and even guessed before I could say anything that it was about them insulting me for being overweight. And you know what? I confirmed it. They then proceeded to go back on this tangent about how I didn't respect myself when I was overweight, so they weren't going to show respect back, which sounds like such a cheesy cop-out line. I told them that if they were going to disrespect me for such superficial reasons, then they aren't the kind of person I want to associate with. They then shook their head and said I was overly sensitive and immature for holding a grudge. So truly, am I the jerk for holding a grudge and still being angry and cold towards people who hurt me? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to think of this. Okay, I hate this so much, so no, you are not the jerk. There is no reason for you to treat someone differently just because of their weight. But guess what? It happens all the time. I've seen it firsthand where it's like, oh yeah, because this person is like obese or overweight or even just a little bit chubby, they're treated with more aggression and like almost hostility as opposed to someone who's fit and more in shape. And it's like, bro, there are probably so many things that are going into that person's weight, it's not even funny. There could be a medication that's causing them to gain weight. There could be like, I don't know, depression going on. There could be a lot of different things going on besides just being lazy. So I personally can't stand people who act like that, who are like, oh wow, that person's fat. They don't respect themselves, so I'm not gonna respect them. But it's like, okay, cool, two can play that game, bro. I don't have to be nice to you just because suddenly I'm fit and you're trying to like, I don't know, win my favor or some crap like that. So to the original poster, no, you're not the jerk. You are giving them a taste of their own medicine, and based on what you're describing, I think it's completely deserved. Am I the jerk for telling my coworker that I won't proofread any of her work anymore after she literally threw me under the bus and blamed me when something she submitted came back wrong? Because right now I am still very pissed off about this. Here's what happened. Okay, for some context, I work in a mid-sized communications team. My coworker and I, who I will call Brittany, have always had a decent working relationship where it's not really been anything close, but it's been very professionally friendly. About 6 months ago, she started occasionally asking me to look over her work before she sent them up because she said she trusted my eye for detail. And you know what? I said sure, like I'm happy to help out. It was informal, not really part of my job, but it was just a colleague helping another one out. I'd spend maybe like 10 or 20 minutes on something, leave track changes and comments, and then send it right back. And this worked really fine for a few months. Then about 6 weeks ago, she sent me a project brief to review. I went through it carefully. I rewrote like 2 sections that had factual inconsistencies. I flagged a statistic that I was pretty sure was outdated, and then I sent it back with notes. Well, the next day she submitted it to our director without accepting any of my changes or even addressing a single comment. And I only found out because our director forwarded it back to the whole team, asking for corrections on exactly the 2 sections that I had flagged. In that same email thread, Brittany replied and said the draft had been reviewed and that she wasn't sure how those errors made it through. Now, I waited until we were alone and I asked her directly about it, and she said she had been in a hurry and must have sent the wrong version, which I might have just taken as the truth, except she also said, well, I did think your edits were a bit overcautious, to be completely honest, which totally exposed the fact that yeah, she did see them. She just chose not to use them and then let the implication sit that the review had happened and then passed. I then told her calmly that I wouldn't be reviewing her work going forward, and she seemed genuinely surprised, which surprised me. So honestly, am I the jerk for pulling back entirely instead of just talking to her about it more? What's the best way to handle this? Okay, in my opinion, this is something that will only happen once to me, bro. If you're gonna throw me under the bus, you better make it count because I will never help you ever again if you do that to me. Seriously, this is unbelievably unprofessional. She literally lied to your face and said, oh, I must have sent the wrong one, and then exposed herself by saying, oh, I just didn't think to add those. Oops, sorry about that. Like, bro, you made me look bad as a result of that, and now everybody's gotta look it over because of your stupid decision. If you'd just done what I told you to do, none of this would have happened. So no, you're not the jerk, dude. This lady is completely out of her mind if she thinks you should like help her out anymore. Because if she can do this once, then she can absolutely do this again. Am I the jerk for not attending my cousin's wedding? All because she didn't invite my partner of 3 years, but invited literally everyone else's plus ones. Because right now I'm not only confused, but also pissed off. And no one seems to be answering the question about why my partner is not being allowed to come along. Here's how it all happened. Okay, for some information to get things started, my cousin's getting married in the spring. When the invitations went out, I noticed mine had only my name on it. No plus one, no mention of my partner of 3 years, who has, by the way, met basically my entire family at this point, been to multiple family events, and by any reasonable measure is just part of my life in a way that should be acknowledged. Every other couple in the family got invited together. Married couples, obviously, but also people who have been dating for less time than us. People whose partners have met the family maybe like twice in total. I waited a few days thinking maybe there was a mistake. Then I reached out to my cousin privately and asked if my partner was invited, and she said no. She kept it vague and gave no real explanation and just moved on like that was a completely normal thing to say. I thought about it for a week and I talked to my parents about it, and then I told my cousin that I would not be able to attend. I wasn't angry about it, I wasn't dramatic, I just said that I wouldn't be there. But now my family's involved. My aunt called me, my mom is getting messages. Apparently I'm ruining the wedding by not attending, and I should just come alone and be happy for my cousin and not make it about my relationship. But guess what? It is about my relationship. My partner is my family. family now. Treating them as less than everyone else's partner with no explanation is not something I can just smile through. So am I the jerk for declining? Because I'm still very hurt by this. Okay, it's kind of obvious that your cousin just doesn't like your partner at all. Like, that really seems to be what's going on here, and that is super unfair for you. I know if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way, especially when everybody else has their partner coming along with them. Like, I would be asking so many questions if this was me. I'd be like, okay, why am I being singled out? Why is my partner specifically being singled out of everyone else? I would absolutely demand a reason, otherwise I wouldn't show up either. So no, you're not the jerk for not attending. I think I would probably do the exact same thing. An entitled Karen thinks that my driveway is actually hers, as she decides to aggressively park in my driveway, thus blocking my access to my own property. And despite the fact that I've told her repeatedly that she can't do this, she said she has every right to do it simply because the previous owners of my house allowed her to do this for 10 years. But after I had her car towed for violating my very clear warning, she escalated in a way I never expected by literally calling the cops on me. Here's what happened. So I recently bought my first home in a quiet suburb. It's a super proud moment for me being single in my early 30s and having saved for years. The house has a long driveway that leads up to a detached garage in the back, and I park halfway up it so I can easily walk to the front door. Now, an important detail with all of this, the driveway is 100% on my property and it is not shared. Now, my neighbor, who is the entitled Karen of this story, is in her mid-40s and has lived in her house for over a decade. She was pleasant enough when I first moved in, bringing over cookies and saying things like, "Oh, welcome to the neighborhood." That is, until I actually started using my driveway. About a week after I moved in, I came home to find her car parked in my driveway. Not partially, mind you, but just completely blocking my garage. I thought maybe it was a mistake, like someone visiting her got confused. So I knocked on her door and she answered by saying, "Oh, that's just me. I've always parked there. The old owners let me." Well, I told her as politely as I could that it's my property and I'd prefer to keep it clear for my car. She then replied by saying, "Well, I've been here for 10 years. It's just easier for me and the street gets icy. Plus, my driveway is too narrow. You have the room." I repeated myself nicely but firmly and said I needed it to be clear moving forward. She just rolled her eyes and then slammed the door in my face. And I really thought that was the end of it, but of course it wasn't. The next day, her car was back. I left a note this time just in case she didn't hear me the first time, and then I started parking behind her so she couldn't leave until she came to talk to me. Well, sure enough, she came over furious. She started yelling about how I was being disrespectful and selfish, saying that good neighbors share, but I told her that if she parked there again, I would have her towed. She said, and I quote, "Well, that's not very neighborly. You'll regret making enemies here." So I did exactly what I said. The next time she parked there, I called a tow truck. And you know what? She lost it and called the cops on me. But when they showed up, they saw my property line and basically told her to stop bothering me. Because in this case, she didn't have a leg to stand on. Yeah, that is some serious entitlement she's got there. This Karen literally was like, "Oh, well, the other owners allowed me to do this, so guess what? I'm gonna do it to you." But like, seriously, why should you be held responsible for what other owners did for this dumb Karen? You're not responsible for any of that, and the fact that she's trying to be like, "Oh, you absolutely have to listen to me," as well as her calling the cops on you, like, that is so out of line. Like, this literally is not her property, and she has her own driveway. Like, what are you doing? So seriously, good for you for putting your foot down and not letting this Karen boss you around, because her behavior absolutely deserved to be punished. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My job demands that I report all the incidents no matter what might be happening, so I decided to maliciously comply, resulting in my boss becoming incredibly frustrated at the constant reports, leading to an eventual change in policy that honestly should have happened way sooner. Here's how it went down. Okay, to start things out, I'm a site supervisor who oversees a team of 10, and we're responsible for the after-hours cleaning in a high school. Generally speaking, my team reports any damage or graffiti they find, and although it's not technically part of my role, I'll assist hirers who have rented the site facilities for sports and stuff like that, and this really is nothing major. I swipe them in if they've got issues with their access cards, or dish out directions. I'm also responsible to ensure site security at the end of each shift, which was until recently basically alarming the buildings. Most schools in my state in southern Australia are gated and therefore fully secured once the main 6-foot gate is secure, but this site is not gated and is accessed by the general public public. There are also always people cutting through the grounds or walking their dogs on the ovals. And this is all good. I do my job, I alarm the site, and then I go home. Well, a few weeks back, it was discovered that a student had somehow gotten a hold of a swipe card, which gave them access to the site after hours. Now, they had allegedly had this card for almost a year and managed to get away with it. Though how this happened isn't very clear, since I alarmed the bulk of the site, save areas that are hired out beyond my finish time. The end result of this discovery has basically been a huge overhaul of security protocols and a crackdown on alarming. I was given direction that at the end of each shift, I was to alarm the site as usual. However, if any buildings didn't alarm that I knew should have, I had to then complete 2 additional steps: contact police security and inform the faculty leader immediately. I finished at 8:00 p.m. and my faculty leader's workday ends at about 4 p.m. and she's not really keen on being disturbed after hours. However, the instructions were clear. Any incident had to be reported to her. Now, it's important to know that the site is old, the alarm system is sensitive, and frankly, it's a daily occurrence that a building won't alarm for some reason, or a hirer will access an area they're not technically supposed to be in. And my boss knows this, or at least I thought she did. So on Monday night, I have to call police security and then her, with the same thing happening the following day on Tuesday. Well, fast forward and all week, there was always something that prior to all the changes, I would log into a book that my boss would then have to sign off on the next day. Well, by Friday, she was really snippy with me, sighing, tutting, that sort of thing. But then my weekend crew had a few issues, and as I was supposed to, I just reported them. Or, at least I tried to, because my boss didn't take any of my calls. Monday morning rolls around again and I get called into a meeting. And this is where I find out that my boss has decided that we will revert back to the old system, as she didn't appreciate all the calls, nor does she appreciate police security emailing her, asking why the cleaner keeps lodging nightly reports. Okay, I really love this story because sometimes this is exactly what it takes to get rid of stupid rules. Like, I'm sure this boss did not want to be bothered all hours of the night, constantly, and they definitely wanted to be off their shift at 4 o'clock. Like, they definitely do not want to be alerted later in the night that, yeah, something went wrong again. So good for you for maliciously complying. Like, seriously, this really did, change the system up, and it made things so much easier and less tedious, which in my opinion is always a good thing. My husband refuses to move from my dream job, despite the fact that I will never get anything like this ever again. And I'm now at such an impasse that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I've kind of reached an impasse here, so I'm now throwing it out to the internet to look for some advice. Now, I'm an academic, which means that job opportunities are few and far between. I've been applying for everything possible for the last 3 years, and finally, I've managed to secure something. Now, this is a permanent thing, and since it's externally funded from a university, it's free from the potential job losses that United Kingdom academia is currently going through. This is my dream job, and it's that career stability that I've been working towards for a decade. For reference, I have a PhD and 2 postdoctorates. They want me in the office full time, and the job is about 150 miles from where we're currently living, so it would require moving. My new boss is flexible on me being in the office a couple days a week for a bit, while things get sorted, but the job starts in September, so things are becoming very real now. However, my husband is dead set against moving. We have a house that we bought 5 years ago, so in that sense, we are kind of settled in. I'm currently working about a 4-hour commute away, which is about 2 hours each way, and where we are, I don't really have any family or friends. However, he wants to be close to his family and has said that basically this job cannot be a long-term solution. I've been open to pivoting and looking at career opportunities where we're living, but there's nothing within a 30-mile radius, which given where we are is probably a 90-minute drive each way given rush hour traffic. Staying here would mean taking a 20 to 40% pay cut, as I'm now on a senior postdoctorate salary compared to the jobs I might be competitive for here. This would obviously be a huge strain on our joint finances, so this isn't really an option. Additionally, my husband's parents are planning on moving in the very near future. I mean, they're looking at places right now. They already have a summer house in mainland Europe that they're planning on spending a substantial chunk of their time at, and they're also now looking at selling their current place and moving about 4 hours across the country. I've tried to discuss this with my husband, but he just gets defensive. He says that moving so far away would put him outside of his support network, and he can't be that far from his family. He has, however, suggested that we could move in with his parents to wherever they end up. Now, I've been looking, but they're planning on moving way out in the country, so the situation is just the same. There are no job opportunities for me there, and it wouldn't be within a commutable distance of this job I do have. I think what hurts the most is that he is totally unwilling to see things from my perspective, that I can't see a way to provide without taking this job. I understand him wanting to be close to family, but even given the fact that they won't be in the country for a chunk of the time, I really feel like a spouse should come first. Especially staying close to family means our relationship taking a huge hit. Like likely if I take up a job here, we won't have the financial stability to afford to have kids. And then the fact that he's totally willing to get up and move for his parents, but won't even entertain that possibility for me just really hurts. I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do here. It's been a truly miserable situation with everyone being happy for me getting this job, apart from the one person who's supposed to be my biggest cheerleader. What should I do? Okay, your husband is being so selfish right now. Seriously, this is so stupid. Why on earth would he not be supportive and be like, oh my gosh, let's do it? Like if he really cared about you, he would be jumping all over this opportunity. I know I would. Like if I had a partner who worked this hard to get their doctorate and then get this chance to have this job, I'd be like, oh my gosh, let's do this. This is fantastic. But instead, this guy's trying to be like, oh, I want to be closer to my parents. And mind you, this guy's 31 years old. Like I get it. You want to be close to family, but dude, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Why not take a chance and see where it goes, dude? At least give it some time. So truly, I really hope there's some kind of solution to this, and hopefully your husband sees where you're coming from, because this really is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and the fact that he's not seeing it is so stupid. My entitled roommate demands that I move out simply because she got pregnant, essentially implying that because I have no kids, she should be given more compassion and understanding for her situation, which basically means I've got to move out in order to make room for her spawn. But after being told this, I said no, I'm not moving, resulting in her freaking out on me in a way that honestly is so frustrating. Here's what's going on. Okay, this is happening right now, and I'm honestly still trying to wrap my head around it. I'm a 26-year-old woman sharing a 2-bedroom apartment with my roommate, who we will call Leah, who is also 28 years old. We've lived here for about 5 months now. The arrangements have been quite straightforward, as we each have our own bedroom, we split rent evenly, and we generally just keep to ourselves. I work remotely, so I've set up a small desk and a monitor in my bedroom to serve as my home office. It's not a huge space, but it's enough for my needs. Well, about a month ago, Leah found out that she was pregnant. I congratulated her, and I assumed that she had a plan in place for whatever adjustments she needed to make. But man, I was completely wrong. Last week, she asked to have a serious talk and told me that she had decided she needed the entire apartment to herself. Her reasoning was that once the baby is born, it will be too stressful and cramped to share the space with another adult. She said she wanted to turn the second bedroom, which was my bedroom, into a nursery, and she thought I should start looking for a new place soon. But I reminded her that we are both on the lease and that I have no intention of moving out. I had no prior plans of doing that and get an urgent apartment in my state, which was a hassle. I pay my share of the rent and the bills, and I rely on this space to do my job. Her pregnancy, while important to her, does not give her the right to kick me out or repurpose my space for her convenience. Well, when I said that, she did not take that well. She insisted that I was being inflexible and unsupportive, saying it was unfair for a newborn to be crammed into her room when there was another perfectly good bedroom in the apartment. She argued that as someone without children, I should be more compassionate and understanding of her situation. Ever since then, Leah has become increasingly passive-aggressive. She slams doors, mutters comments under her breath, and frequently makes remarks about how some people only care about themselves. She keeps suggesting that I should do the right thing and make space for the baby, as though her personal life choices somehow outweigh the legal agreement we both signed onto. I've already contacted our landlord to make sure my rights are protected in case she tries something sneaky, because I am not going anywhere. Leah is the one who chose to have a baby mid-lease with no real plan in place, and that's not my responsibility to fix. And I'm not giving up my home because she failed to think things through. If she wants more space, she can find another apartment, because at this point, I will gladly help her pack. Dude, good for you for putting down your foot and saying, no, I'm not gonna move, because her request is completely absurd. Just because she had a kid, which by the way absolutely is her choice, doesn't mean she gets to dictate how you live your life in the space that you're renting. And it's so funny because her arguments can literally be used against her. If she's so judgmental towards people she considers selfish, then why not find another apartment of her own? Instead of kicking your roommate out, go find another place where yes, you can have a space for the baby. Because this is just straight up lazy. Like, this is so stupid. Why should the original poster have to uproot their life all because they don't have any kids? That doesn't give you a license to be rude to the original poster. Like, that is so dumb. So honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would do the same thing. I would refuse to move and make sure that my rights are secured, because you can bet that your roommate might try something in the future, so it's better to be safe than sorry in this kind of scenario. Am I the jerk for turning down a weird solicitor in a way that my brother didn't like, after he chose to not address it when he had the chance? Here's what's going on. I'm a 19-year-old female, and I was sitting at our kitchen table across from an open window that's near our front door. To get to our front door, you must pass this window. Now, my 21-year-old brother was shirtless on his computer in the living room, and a guy came up who was maybe about 25 years old and knocked on our door in a friendly way. My brother had peered through the window blinds and didn't recognize him, so we just figured we wouldn't answer the door. I offered to my brother for him to just open the door, but he declined and went back to his computer. The guy knocked again, and I thought after that he would be done. Well, he started walking off, but right as he was about to leave, he saw me through the window and started waving, sort of in a cocky way. And needless to say, this was very uncomfortable. And I honestly just don't know why, but he just didn't walk away. I shook my head at the guy to say no, and then started telling my brother that he was still in the window just waving. Even still, I sort of ignored the guy for a little, but he just kept on waving and looking rude. I asked my brother, hey, can you just open the door and say something? But he said he didn't have a shirt on, so he didn't want to. The guy outside said something incomprehensible, but he still wasn't leaving. So I finally got up, frustrated at the guy not leaving and my brother not helping, and at the sight of me getting up from the table, the guy threw his hands up all sighing and dramatic, shouting, "There we go," through the closed window. I went and I opened the door and I said, "We're not interested," in a concise and straightforward manner. Then I just closed the door and I locked it again. The guy lingered afterwards, shouting, "Oh, you might be," through the door, and some other similar phrases I couldn't quite make out. He eventually left, but it made me a little paranoid and nervous that he might return. The whole situation shot my anxiety up, so yes, I might not have handled it in a perfect way, but I thought it was realistic and I didn't have any ill intentions behind it. My brother afterwards told me that he didn't like the way that I handled it. He thinks I should have been nicer to the guy. I don't think I was mean, but I just was not going to sugarcoat it or give him the time to do his whole sales spiel. So I told my brother that if he didn't like how I reacted, then he should have just answered the door instead. I said that I didn't appreciate the way that he handled the situation either, not stepping in and just opening the door instead in the first place. I don't know if he was just insecure of opening the door shirtless or some other reason, but it wasn't very brotherly of him. I gave him 2 to 3 chances where I asked him to just open the door, but he didn't do anything. It's also really funny. He talks a really big game about how he thinks gender roles are super important and men should be filling masculine roles and women should be protected, but somehow I'm the one who cooks, cleans, fixes, and builds things around the house, as well as always being aware and on guard about people in front. So am I the jerk for handling the situation in the way that I did, or is my brother at fault for not handling it instead? What should I do? Okay, I really love the fact that you stepped up and said something, because this is such an easy situation your brother could have handled. And in my opinion, he absolutely should have handled it. Not just because he's like the man in the house or anything like that, but because he literally was closer to the door. He could have stepped up and been like, "Hey, we're not interested in what you're selling," and then closed it, and that would have been the end of it. It would have been done right then and there, and then it's like, okay, we don't have to worry about that. But instead, he chooses to not get involved, but then actually sit there and try and judge the way you handled it. Like, dude, you didn't do anything, so I had to say something. This guy was waving at me through the window. Like, seriously, what am I supposed to do? Sit there and just do nothing like you? He's just gonna sit there longer and still try to sell us his crap. Which also, as a side note, I really hate people who go door to door. Like, I know that might be someone's job out there, but honestly, it is super annoying and I just don't like it. Like, to each their own. Live your life however you want to do it, make money however you want. But personally, I really just find those guys infuriating and I just don't like having to deal with them. So I completely understand where everybody in this story is coming from, because those people are super frustrating. But in my opinion, your brother was way closer to the door, so he easily could have handled it if he really wanted to. And that, in my opinion, absolutely makes him the jerk. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story, because we would love to hear what you have to say. A group of entitled teenagers keep parking their car on my land and having a party. And after I've explained to them several times that they need to get lost, these kids have just consistently disrespected me and ignored me. So I decided to get some revenge by literally preventing their cars from leaving my property without the use of a tow truck. And now I'm wondering if I went too far or if I'm justified in my actions. Here's what happened. To start things out, I'm a 54-year-old farmer, and this story has been eating at me for a few days now. And I don't know if I went too far, but here it goes. I own a decent-sized piece of farmland in a rural area, and for the past few weeks, a group of teenagers from town has decided that my land is their personal parking lot. It started with 1 or 2 cars on weekends, but then more showed up. At first, I figured they were just parking for a bit, and I didn't think too much of it. But then they started coming more often, and they were louder, rowdier, and more disrespectful every single time. They would park along the edge of one of my fields that I clearly own and maintain. They would blast music, scream, laugh late into the night, and even throw rocks at my goats and chickens like it was a carnival game. One of them actually climbed on top of my old tractor for selfies. I tried being polite at first, and I walked out and asked them to leave. But that only got some sarcastic "yes sir" and some exaggerated salutes, followed by laughter as they peeled out, leaving tire tracks in the dirt. I put up a sign that said "private property, no parking" in bold red letters, but they knocked it over and spray painted a smiley face on it. The final straw came last week when they were out there again, this time in 4 separate cars, blaring some bass-heavy garbage at 11 o'clock p.m. I had an early morning of work ahead of me and I couldn't sleep. I yelled from my porch to get off my land, and one of them shouted back by saying, "It's a free country, boomer." Well, if it's a free country, then I guess I'm free to plow my own field. The next morning was plow day. It had had rained a bit the night before, so the ground was soft, perfect for my tractor and awful for car tires. I went out with my plow and I did my usual work, but I made sure to do a very thorough job plowing around their parked cars. I didn't touch their vehicles, but I plowed the soil nice and deep around them in every direction. With the rain and the churned up dirt, it turned into thick, sticky mud. When they came back later that afternoon, they were furious. One of the trucks got stuck trying to drive out, and another car's wheels were spinning until they gave up and just called a tow. And you know what? I just sat on my porch, sipping coffee and watching like a Netflix special. Later, one of their parents came by to chew me out for apparently trapping their kids. But I calmly pointed out that they were on private property without my permission. They had ignored my signs and disrespected me multiple times. Well, these people called me petty, but I just said, if I can't protect my own land, then what can I protect? And now some people in town are calling me farmer jerk and saying I escalated things unnecessarily. I didn't touch their cars, I just plowed my field. You know, the very field that they shouldn't have been on in the first place. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm still pretty pissed off. Yeah, this is absolutely not your fault, because the only jerks in this situation are the teenagers and the parents trying to defend them. Like seriously, let's think about this for a second. They're trespassing on private property, they're ignoring the property owner, they're disrespecting him, they're ignoring the privacy signs. Like this guy did everything he possibly could besides calling the police to get these guys off his property. And in my opinion, he did it way nicer than I would have. Like I would have been calling the police almost immediately. But that's just me. Like that's how I would have handled it. But I also appreciate how the original poster did it. Like this is completely fine too. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. And the fact that you plowed around their car pretty much forced them to spend a lot of money to get their cars out of that situation. So hopefully this is a lesson they won't soon forget, because they literally could have avoided all of this if they simply listened to the original poster. My entitled cousin demands that I let her move into my house, stating that because I have the room, she should be allowed to stay there for pretty much as long as she wants. But after growing up around her and knowing how much drama comes along with her, I decided to put my foot down and say no, as I know for a fact she will literally ruin my life and stay way longer than she should. Here's what's going on. I'm a 25-year-old female and I bought my own 3-bedroom house last year after working full-time and saving up, which was a huge deal for me. One room's mine, one is my study, and the third is a guest room, which was for actual guests. And we're talking people who would stay for like a weekend and then leave. Life was moving pretty good until I got a random call from my cousin, who we will call Tasha. For just a bit of background, Tasha has always been a bit of a nutcase, even when we were kids. Constant drama, always lying, stealing little things, blaming others, etc. My mom once said that Tasha could smash a glass and somehow make it someone else's fault. And as we got older, the rumors about her got worse. Stuff about how she would go around town with sketchy guys, she would be on the party scenes, with the possibility of substance use, but nothing was confirmed. But you know what? Nobody's shocked. We barely talk unless it's at a family event, and even then, I keep it short. So we were on the phone, and after 2 minutes of fake small talk, she then says that she broke up with her boyfriend, and she figured she will stay at my place for a while. You know, just for a few months until she got her stuff together. And she said it like she was inviting herself to dinner, and she was saying it like, oh please, you don't mind, right? I'll just be there. But I said no. I said it nicely at first, as I told her the guest room isn't for long-term stays, and I need peace to work from home. Well, that's when she started getting nasty. She said I was acting all high and mighty because I bought a house. Like that makes me better than everyone. But I still stood my ground. A few days later, my other aunt, you know, not even her own mom, just one of those older relatives who tries to play the peacemaker, called me up and said, you know, it wouldn't hurt to help her out. She is still family. But I flat out told her that I've seen Tasha move in with people before, and it's never for a few months. She comes with drama, a suitcase full of bad decisions, and she never leaves unless someone threatens legal action. So no, I'm not doing it. I work too hard for my peace and my space just to hand it over to someone who has always been bad news. Because honestly, she can figure it out. Because that process is definitely not gonna happen in my house. Dude, good for you for standing your ground. This Tasha lady sounds awful. Like seriously, just one big drama queen who's just waiting to ruin your life. And that's honestly all that would happen. She would ruin everything and treat you like garbage. And the fact that anyone's trying to come to her defense and be like, oh, but we're family. Family does this. Come on. Just let her in and let her move in. This'll be fine. It's like, no, dude, if you really feel that way, then let her move in with you. Like, it's always the people who are like, oh, come on, just do it for this one time. Those are the kind of people who would never do it themselves and are only reaching out because they're like, please, she's calling me nonstop. Please make it stop by like fixing this for me. When it's like, no, you shouldn't have to do that. This is your home. So yes, this was absolutely necessary, and no, you are not the jerk. Because Tasha sounds like bad news, and I don't blame you for shutting her out. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled mom and daughter demand that I move out of my workspace at a library, as they claim they always sit where I'm at and they want it way more than I do. But thankfully, the librarian came in clutch and shut this lady down, leaving me incredibly confused at how entitled this Karen truly was. Here's what happened. So this happened a few days ago at my local library. I usually go there to get some work done because it's quieter than home and the Wi-Fi is pretty decent. I had just sat down at one of the public computers, literally 10 minutes in, when this woman walks up with her daughter. Now her daughter looks to be about 17 years old. I noticed them kind of hovering behind me, but I figured that they were just waiting for a computer nearby to free up. Then the mom taps me on the shoulder and says, "Hi, how long are you gonna be?" I say to her, "Well, I'll probably be a while. I mean, I just got here. There are a bunch of other computers though that are open." Well, she looks at the other ones and just scoffs. She says to me, "Yeah, but my daughter likes this one. She always uses this one. Can't you just move?" And when she said that, I was honestly super confused. I told her no, I already logged in and started working, and it's also first come, first serve. She then hits me with the dumbest thing I've ever heard. "You're an adult. You can work anywhere. She is a child." And I almost laughed because first off, she is not a little kid. I told her again that I'm not moving, and I suggested that she speak to a librarian if she has an issue. And you know what? She actually did. She walks off muttering something and gets a librarian. The librarian walks over, asks me if everything's all right, and I explain what happened. Then the librarian turns to the mom and says, "Ma'am, this isn't a restaurant. You don't get to request your favorite table." The look on the mom's face was absolutely priceless. She mumbled something about rude people and ended up using another computer like 3 seats down. Same model, same everything. Just not the special one, I guess. I'm genuinely wondering if I missed a memo where having a kid means you own public spaces now, because this incident was incredibly confusing. Yeah, this would not only be confusing, but also like really piss me off, because seriously, there are other computers you can go to, but you're bothering me? Like, get a life, go somewhere else and bother some other person. Because I know if I was in this situation, I would be very pissed off. My mom puts my dad in his place after a rude comment and a long few days, leaving him alone to take care of all the kids, teaching him a lesson in the process that he will never forget. Here's what happened. Okay, so my dad worked long-haul trucking when I was little, while my mom worked part-time from home so she could raise us kids. This occurred when I was maybe 4 years old at the time, and my sister had just started walking during the early 2000s. Now, I know all of this because my mom brings it up anytime she's pissed off at dad if he slacks on parenting duties, with mostly those occasions being unintentional on his part. So basically, dad comes in from days in the truck, sees my mom half passed out on the couch as she had been fighting a cold the past few days prior, sees me watching TV while my sister waddled up to him with her diaper sagging. Now he, being tired himself, blurted out, "Geez, woman, you couldn't change her?" All while trying to step around my sister. Now, according to my mom, she just got up, looked him dead in the eyes and said, "You're in charge of the girls now," and then locked herself in their bathroom. Now, dad of course made a small stink about it, but he did change my sister and then tried to get the TV remote away so that he could watch something. Well, me being the little jerk that I was as a kid, told him, "Mommy said I get the TV today because I read a whole book." Basically meaning that I wasn't going to give him the TV remote. So my dad stormed off to confront mom, as the only other TV was in their room. Mom told him I was right and to just tough it out through the door. Well, my dad had to sit with me and my sister while Dora played on the TV for the next 2 hours. And yes, it was a marathon day, so there was a lot of it. He knew that if he took the remote away from me when I was rewarded, it would backfire on him completely. And trust me, that's another long story in and of itself. Then my mom wouldn't come out at dinner time, so dad had to make dinner himself. But I was picky as I had undiagnosed autism at the time, and I had a meltdown over what he made. Dad pleaded to mom to please come out and help, but mom told him to man up and deal with it himself. My dad ended up just giving me cereal because I refused to eat whatever he cooked, and dad knew that if he withheld dinner from me, mom would literally sick his parents on him, especially my grandma, who is terrifying. I mean, she even scolded my dad in front of us for not playing with us when we asked. He then also had to make my school lunch for tomorrow and then get his kids to bed. My mom, meanwhile, kept him locked out of their room for the next 36 hours, using their ensuite and having him bring her meals, namely dinner and then breakfast. Dad had to sleep on the couch, deal with my bedtime tantrums, and the next morning my before school meltdown, pack my bag, dress me, and then walk me to school, all while dealing with my barely year-old sister who would get into everything and was just super fussy at the worst of times. According to mom, after Dad picked me up from school at the end of the day, she finally came out all rested, took one look at my disheveled, sleep-deprived father, and said to him, "You really couldn't keep them calm?" Well, Dad never ever made even a single comment like that ever again. Oh, and Mom still tattled on Dad, so Grandma gave him a verbal whooping that weekend when we visited her and Grandpa. Then my grandma made my dad do all the house chores, while she, my grandpa, and my mom sat and played with my sister and I, marking this as a moment that I'm sure my father has never forgotten. Oh man, this is really funny. I'm sure that Dad immediately regretted his decision to make that comment, because this really does sound like an absolute nightmare. A group of entitled parents at a public park try to have their kids ride the back of my dog while we are sitting in a picnic area, resulting in one of the most confusing and irritating situations I've ever had to be in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so I took my golden retriever named Max to a local family-friendly festival last Sunday. It had outdoor booths, live music, food trucks, and kids everywhere. Now for this, I kept him leashed the entire time. He is calm, trained, and used to crowds, so he was just happily trotting beside me, soaking up pets from strangers and stealing attention like a pro. At one point, while we were resting near a shaded picnic area, a group of kids ran over and started fawning over him, which was fine. It happens all the time. Max sat patiently with his tail wagging. Then their parents showed up, but instead of pulling the kids back or thanking me for letting them pet the dog, they started positioning one of the kids like he was about to sit on Max, with one leg lifted like he was about to mount a pony. And at this point, Max stood up, visibly confused, and started backing away. I then gently repositioned him and I moved between them. And when I did that, the parents were visibly annoyed. One of them even pointed at Max like he was some kind of prop. No asking, no eye contact, just an unspoken expectation that their children were entitled to use my living, breathing pet as a ride. When they realized I wasn't going along with it, they stormed off with one of the kids whining, one of the adults muttering something under their breath, and shooting glares back at me like I had ruined their family outing, which honestly is completely baffling. Wow, those parents are not good parents, because that could have really hurt the dog. Seriously, you should not be riding dogs like that. That's incredibly bad for their back, especially a dog that you don't know. Like sure, Max is sitting there wagging his tail, but who's to say the second you don't put your kid on its back, it's not going to turn around and start biting people? Like what an irresponsible, stupid thing to do. Not to mention just blatantly disrespectful to the owner of the dog. So good for you for protecting your dog. This really could have ended badly, because these parents sound incredibly inconsiderate. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit, and if you would like to submit your own stories, check out the link in the description. We would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for secretly investigating my sister after her husband accused her of cheating? Because right now everything's blown up in my face and I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. A few weeks ago, my brother-in-law, who I will call Rob for the sake of the story, came to me and confessed that he thought my sister, who we will call Emily, was cheating on him. For context, Rob and I are good friends and talk regularly at family events and gatherings. He is an only child, but we've known each other long enough that he sees me as a sister. I've never known Emily to cheat on anyone, let alone her husband of 5 years, so at first I was skeptical of Rob's claim. However, Rob told me that Emily had been acting distant, reserved, and all these other things, and would evade the topic whenever he asked about it. I asked Emily if she was feeling alright, and she said that she was fine. Well, I told Rob this, and he asked if I could dig deeper to see if there was truly something going on. This threw me off further, since it seemed like he was just looking for dirt on Emily to justify something that he had done. So I told him to try being more firm in talking with Emily. The next day, Emily calls me in tears and tells me Rob accused her of cheating and that she's devastated. She thought he accused her to hide his own cheating, so she made him give over his phone to her so that she could go through it, but she found nothing. It was at this point that I began to suspect something. At first, I had the same suspicion my sister had, but if she didn't find anything, then what Rob said began to make more sense. So over the next week, I started paying more attention to where my sister was going. We both live on the main road of a small town, and she drives a very distinct vehicle. I started watching to see when she'd pass by each day, as well as asked Rob to see where she said she was going. After a few days, I saw Emily driving by when the gym she told Rob she was visiting was the opposite direction. She came back 2 hours later and clearly never visited the gym. At this point, I had reason to believe Emily did really cheat, and Rob seemed completely innocent. The next time I visited Emily, I asked to use her laptop to do some shopping, and she just let me have it. Well, it turns out she saved her passwords to everything on there, so I could sign in as her. It took me 10 minutes to find messages to a guy on Snapchat where they literally agreed to meet up. The messages really weren't flirty, and they hadn't shared any pictures, but she had agreed to meet a man in secret, which was enough for Rob to confront her. Once again, I receive a call from my sister screaming at me that I violated her privacy and I broke her trust, and what I found was just chatting with a coworker and not cheating. She then accused me of trying to steal Rob Rob and basically said I was a terrible person for trying to ruin her life. I don't know what all her and Rob have said to each other, but it definitely cannot be pretty either. So am I the jerk for getting involved in this? Because right now I'm not sure what to do. Okay, this might go against like anything I've ever said on this channel, but yeah, I do think you're the jerk here. Why on earth did you get involved in this situation? Like seriously, what a nightmare. This doesn't sound like something anyone should get between. This is something that Emily and Rob need to figure out. And yeah, unfortunately, Emily's completely right. You invaded her privacy by going into her laptop and looking through everything. That's not fair for Emily, even if she is cheating. Like sure, you think you found something of them meeting up, but she's like, no, that wasn't cheating. That's literally a coworker. And unless you have some irrefutable evidence to be like, oh no, you were gonna cheat, then what you found is pretty innocuous and probably nothing. And now you're involved in something that definitely should not involve you in the first place. So yes, in this situation, I definitely think you're the jerk. Did I overreact for walking out when my sister-in-laws tried to put a $400 surprise birthday cake on my card at a dinner I organized, basically implying that I'll pay for it without even asking me first? Because right now my entire family is pissed off and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I've been married for 12 years to a brilliant wife who is the one that keeps me sane enough to survive things like family dinners. For a bit of background, my family calls me the restaurant guy because I can monologue about favorite dishes of mine that are long gone. So it was no shock that my sister-in-law asked me to book a place for my brother Dan's 40th birthday that could handle a big crowd. So I used a typical reservation site, I tossed in my card to lock the table down, and picked a well-known LA spot that has old school vibes with a huge Scottish list. And I figured that we would split the bill like always. Well, the day comes around last Saturday, and dinner's rolling, prime rib and cocktails are everywhere, but at that moment the lights dim and a 3-tier cake with Dan's name shows up on the table. We do the thing, and not even 10 minutes later, the manager thanks me for prepaying and hands me a bill for $400 plus an automatic tip, saying that my sister-in-law told him to go big and to put it on the card used for the reservation. But thankfully it was denied because they can't do that. And this is literally the first I've ever heard of it. I could tell he knew I was genuinely flabbergasted by hearing this. I told the manager the cake wasn't on me, had him reverse the charge, and he did that with no questions asked. I then wished Dan happy birthday and then I headed home. So now all of Sunday and this past week, even on the holiday, the family chat is going crazy and all, but saying that I ruined the night and made everyone scramble to cover dessert, which apparently was an expense they weren't prepared for. And yes, I will say that I've done pretty well in this world thanks to my portfolio, but I do not want to be taken advantage of. Like that really is incredibly rude. Frankly, I would have covered the whole meal without issues, but there's something off about trying to stick a fancy cake on my card without asking. It really just feels shady. It's not going to change the way some of my family feel, but I'm posting here for a little validation, and that it might just help me feel like I'm not taking one of those crazy pills here. So seriously, am I overreacting, or did she indeed push it too far? What should I do? Holy crap, $400 for a cake? If someone sprung that on me and said, okay, we're gonna cover it with a card on file, I would be like, wait a second, that's not happening, that's my card, and no, we're not doing that. Like, that's an insane thing to throw on you all of a sudden, regardless of if you have money or not. So no, you're definitely not overreacting. This is incredibly rude, and I absolutely agree with the original poster. It is shady at best, because if they were truly not prepared to pay for it, then they should not have ordered it in the first place. Am I the jerk for wanting to kick my brother out of my house, as he has only been able to pay rent consistently for maybe 2 months? Because right now I'm getting a lot of guilt trip from my family and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 27-year-old female and I live with my parents and my younger brother who is 25. Since graduating high school, my brother hasn't been able to keep a job for more than a year. He lives rent-free and my parents cover all of his expenses, including his car and insurance. And I've always been frustrated with how much they baby him. Things got worse when my dad lost his job after a serious accident that caused him to lose an eye. Ever since then, I've been covering almost all the household expenses. I told my brother if he wanted to live under my roof, he had to start paying rent. Well, he agreed, but only managed 2 months worth of it, after constant reminders. And then he quit his job and stopped paying rent altogether. Now, we had an agreement. If he couldn't keep paying rent consistently, he would have to either join the military or move out. Back in March, he told me he was working with a Navy recruiter and just needed time to detox from some of the substances that he was smoking. I gave him until the end of June to show me a signed military contract, but earlier this month, he told me he's no longer enlisting. Instead, he promised to pay rent again and back pay what he owes. At that point, I had had enough. I told him he needed to move out by the end of June, and I was very firm and very clear with him. I don't want him living with me anymore. I love him, but he needs to grow up and take responsibility for his life. And now my parents are upset with me. They say I'm being heartless, that he won't survive on his own. My mom even said that if something happened to him, him, she wouldn't want to live. I love my mom deeply, but when she says things like that, it feels incredibly manipulative and guilt-inducing. She says we're a small family and we need to stick together, but I feel stuck. I'd move out if I could, but I'm worried about leaving my parents behind in all of this mess. My brother also complained that I charged him way too much for rent, but I only asked for what the local market would charge for a room and nothing more. Every time I bring up my concerns, my parents say that they'll talk to him, but nothing ever changes, and I'm left feeling drained, unsupported, and angry in my own home. I hate that it's come to this, but I honestly don't want him near me anymore. I don't want to fight, but I am ready to stand my ground. This situation is wrecking my mental health, and I seriously just need to hear from people who don't know me because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, the fact that he's not paying rent is more than enough reason to be like, okay, you've got to go. Like, I don't think him joining the military or not is something you can really enforce. Like, that's kind of crazy, but you can absolutely enforce whether or not he lives there, especially if you have say over the household. And if this guy's not carrying his weight by paying rent, then sorry, you gotta go. This is the deal we had and you broke it, so now you've gotta leave. And sure, this is a close family and this is all you have, but also it kind of seems like he's taking advantage of this situation and not actually trying to like make anything work. So no, you would not be the jerk for kicking him out because I think this might be the best thing for him. I left my ex years ago, but in the process, I also took out his PlayStation and his PlayStation account, making this one of the pettiest revenges I've ever done in my life. Here's how I did it. Okay, so this happened almost 10 years ago, but it is still one of my pettiest victories to this day. Back when I was 19 years old, I left my awful ex almost overnight after 4 years of being together. It wasn't a really nasty breakup, but the relationship was the worst I'd ever experienced. Now, I didn't make a scene. I just left and I moved 600 kilometers while he was at work. I was safe and I was fine. Well, one random day a few weeks later, I had received an email confirmation for some PlayStation game, and I didn't own a PlayStation and was actually confused for a few seconds. That is until it hit me. He had used my email address for his account. I had no idea for how long, but I knew it wouldn't continue. At the bottom of the email, it was something asking, well, if this wasn't you, then click here. And you know what? I absolutely did. 2 clicks later, they thanked me for letting them know of this possible fraud and had blocked everything they had to do with this account I had no idea about. Now, I had blocked my ex, but I kind of got a hint that he was not amused at all when his best friend wrote me a really nice message saying that everything he ever bought, which was a lot, is gone, and all his progress in any game got deleted, and he would need to verify his ID and PlayStation in order to get a new account. And what a terrible human being I am. And you know what? I still smile every time I think about it because this ex absolutely deserved the trouble. Oh man, this is really funny because I can see this being a massive nuisance to probably anybody. If my account got banned for like Steam or something like that, especially in such a small way, like I would go crazy because I don't know about you, but if you're like me, you probably have like a ton of games on Steam. So not having access to that would be like, oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding me right now. Like I would go crazy having to deal with that. And I'm sure this guy had the same experience with his PlayStation, but it seems like he deserved it. So good for the original poster. My entitled neighbor slams his door every morning at 5 o'clock as hard as he possibly can, waking me up out of a dead sleep and ruining my morning. But after I tried to ask him to please keep it down, he blew me off in a way that really pissed me off. So I decided to get some revenge by playing the piano as loud as possible nearly at midnight every single night, just to show him how frustrating it is to have noisy neighbors. Here's how I did it. So I live in an apartment where the walls are thin enough to hear someone sneeze 2 units down. So like basic noise courtesy kind of matters. Most people get that, but not my next door neighbor. For some reason, he thinks doors are meant to be slammed and not closed. Not gently pulled shut, but full body thrown like he's mad at it. And he does this every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning. No exaggeration. It's how I wake up most weekdays now. Sometimes he slams it twice because he forgets his phone or whatever. So bonus round for me, I guess. One morning I ran into him and I asked him if he could please just maybe be a little quieter with the door. And I really kept this light and I was not rude about this at all. Well, when I said that, he just laughed at me and said, "It's just a door, relax." And then he walked off. So I thought to myself, okay then, I guess it's time for me to get some petty revenge. That night, I decided if he likes noise so much, then I absolutely could contribute as well. I dragged out my old electric keyboard, I plugged it in, and I picked the loudest, most obnoxious organ setting I could find. At around 11 o'clock p.m., when everything's super quiet, I sat down and started playing chopsticks like a kid at their first piano lesson. I didn't do it well, and it definitely was not rhythmically correct, and I definitely did not do this for a short amount of time, because I did this for 3 nights in a row. Well, on the 4th morning, the 5 a.m. door slam never came. It's been over a week now, and I've had peaceful mornings with no slamming, no passive-aggressive notes, and instead just pure silence. So yeah, I guess sometimes you really do have to fight noise with noise. And hey, maybe I'll get good at the piano piano again while I'm at it. Yeah, this is one of those situations where it's like, yeah, you need to fight noise with noise. I love the fact that you got back at this guy in such a fun way. And by the way, it is not just a door. You're literally slamming that at 5 in the morning. Like, why are you slamming anything at 5 in the morning, dude? People are still asleep. And sure, someone's gonna be like, oh, I get up at 3 in the morning. It's no big deal for me. But for the rest of us, no, that's not a normal time to get up. So the fact that he was so flippantly slamming his door is so obnoxious. But in that same vein of thought, I love the way that you handle this, because this guy sounds like he absolutely needed an attitude adjustment, especially with how he dismissed your concerns almost immediately. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My girlfriend's entire family hates my guts, and after dealing with their snide remarks and awful passive-aggressive comments towards me, I decided to put my foot down and block all of them on social media, resulting in them freaking out and me wondering if I went too far, because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my girlfriend and I have been together for about 2 years now. We recently moved in together after a long stretch of saving and planning. Everything between us is solid, but her family is an entirely different story. They have never liked me. From the start, they made passive-aggressive comments, criticized everything from my job to how I dress, and treated me like some outsider trying to steal her. She always defended me, but it just never stopped. Last month, she got a big promotion, and I was proud of her, and I posted a picture of us celebrating. And that's when the messages started flooding in. Her sister said I was mooching off her success. Her uncle joked that I should be grateful someone like her settled. Her mom sent a long text message saying that she was worried I'd drag her down. But you know what? I didn't respond to any of it. But after a week of nonstop text messages, calls, and snide comments on social media, I had simply had enough, and I blocked every single one of them. But now they're saying that I'm isolating her. She doesn't blame me at all, but part of me wonders, was that going way too far? Or was I just protecting my peace? So am I the jerk in this situation, or is there something else I should have done? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, these people are idiots. How on earth are you isolating anyone from anything? These people have been attacking you since day one for no good reason. Like, that's the main thing here. You literally are just trying to support your girlfriend, and they're trying to be like, oh yeah, you're just gonna drag her down. You better be lucky that she settled for you. And it's like, dude, I don't know what you want. I literally don't know how to make you happy. So if I was in your shoes, I would have done the same thing. I would have blocked them and moved on and explained to my girlfriend why I'm doing that. Because their toxic comments are not something you should ever have to deal with. And I honestly don't blame you in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not letting my friend borrow one of my designer dresses for a wedding after she called me shallow for even buying them in the first place? Here's what's going on. I'm a 26-year-old female, I have a stable job, I have no kids, and sometimes I like to treat myself. I've saved up for a few designer dresses over the years, and this is nothing outrageous, just a handful of nice pieces I wear to special events. I'm careful with them, and they mean a lot to me because they're things I actually worked hard for. Now, one of my close friends, who we will call Lena, is 27 years old and has always made snide comments about my clothing. Stuff like, oh, I don't get how you can spend that much on fabric. I could never be that shallow. Now, I usually just kind of laugh it off, but honestly, it does get under my skin. She clearly thinks I'm materialistic, even though I've never judged her lifestyle or spending habits. Anyways, she's going to a wedding soon and texted me out of the blue, asking to borrow one of my dresses. No apology, no acknowledgement of the past comments, just her saying, you have so many, I figured you wouldn't mind. Well, I just politely said no, explaining I don't lend them out, especially for trips where I won't be there. And when I said that, she snapped back that I was being selfish and dramatic. And now a few mutual friends are chiming in saying, oh, it's just a dress. But I can't help but feel that it's more than that. I mean, why should she benefit from something she's constantly belittled me for? So seriously, am I the jerk here for not allowing this to go to my friend? Because I'm still incredibly pissed off about this. No, you're not the jerk at all. Your friend sucks. She can't sit there and be like, oh wow, these things suck. You're super shallow for buying them. And then in the same sentence be like, by the way, I want to borrow one of them. It's like, okay, wait a second. It's either one way or the other. You can't have it both ways. This isn't fair at all. Either these are really shallow dresses and you hate them, or you want them and you're just jealous of her. Like, she's being so hypocritical. This is like so awful. So no, you're not the jerk and all of your friends are completely wrong, because this is something you worked for and you are under no obligation to give that out to anybody, especially someone who talked down to you in the way that your friend did. Am I overreacting for refusing to cook for my fiance after he told his family that I don't bring anything to the table in our relationship? Here's what's going on. I'm a 26-year-old female and I live with my 28-year-old fiance, and we've been engaged for about 5 months now. I work remotely as a copy editor and also take care of most things around the house, namely cooking, cleaning, managing bills, stuff like that. He works a 9 to 5 and says he pays most of the rent, even though it's about a 60-40 split. Last weekend, we went to a family family dinner at his mom's house, and his brother made a joke about wife duties, and my fiance said something like, "Well, she's not there yet, still working on bringing something to the table." His dad then laughed and his mom gave me that pity smile as if to say, "Oh, you'll get there one day." And when I heard this, I was completely stunned. I didn't say anything, but I stewed the whole ride home. That night, I didn't cook dinner, and the next day, I didn't make breakfast or lunch like I usually do. Well, he noticed immediately and asked what was wrong, and I just told him I didn't feel like contributing to a table I apparently didn't bring anything to. When I said this, he got defensive, said it was just a joke, and accused me of punishing him. He even said that I was being manipulative. But I haven't been able to get over how casually he said that in front of people who already don't seem to think highly of me. So am I overreacting for going radio silent on the cooking and cleaning until he apologizes? Because right now I'm incredibly upset. Okay, dude, this is so messed up it's not even funny. Because in my opinion, this is probably exactly what this guy thinks of you. I've got no evidence to back it up, but hear me out. If he's willing to say that so flippantly in front of people that he knows, especially his family, then I'm willing to believe that there's probably some kind of like secret conversation that you're not in on. And I'm not trying to base this on paranoia, but more so just like pattern recognition. Because first of all, it's a big red flag that he's willing to humiliate you like that in front of the family, but also say something so hurtful and condescending so openly. Like, dude, this is awful. Like, that really does suck. Because clearly you do bring stuff to the table. You're taking care of him, you're taking care of the house, you're literally providing value in your relationship. And this guy makes it sound like you don't bring anything to the table. Like, if someone spoke to me like that, I would immediately stop what I'm doing and be rethinking everything. So no, you're not overreacting. This really is a serious matter because what he said was incredibly hurtful, and I don't blame you for being pissed off. Am I the jerk for telling my dad I felt excluded after his girlfriend didn't invite me to dinner? Because what I just experienced was so awkward, and I'm honestly not sure what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 26-year-old female, and I've been staying at my dad's place for a bit while I look for a new apartment. He lives with his girlfriend who's 36 years old and her 13-year-old daughter. It's been okay lately. However, honestly, it is kind of awkward. I try to stay out of the way, I keep to myself, I always clean up after myself, etc. I've never been super close with his girlfriend, but I've always been polite. Well, the other night, my dad mentioned they were going out to dinner, and they said that I should go with them. He said it might be nice for all of us to spend a little time together and just get out of the house. Now, I agreed, thinking that it would be chill and maybe a good chance to ease some of the weirdness. And while he wasn't coming as he did have some work stuff, I figured as the one suggesting it, I was genuinely being welcome to join in. Well, we got there and my father's girlfriend told the host, table for two, please, and then turned to me and said something like, "Oh, I thought you were just tagging along. This is a little celebration for just her." And when she said this, I was kind of stunned. I didn't want to make a scene, so I just said, "Oh, okay," and then I just walked off. I then ended up getting takeout nearby and just Ubering home. When I got back, my dad asked me how dinner was, and I just said, well, apparently I wasn't invited after all. And now his girlfriend is saying that I overreacted and made her look bad, and my dad is just stuck in the middle. Her daughter also gave me a weird look when they got back, like I had ruined the night or something like that. Now, I don't think I'm entitled to a free meal or anything like that, but I was told I was invited. It just felt really crappy to be treated like an afterthought, especially when my dad said that I should go to this. So am I the jerk here? Because I really don't know what to do. Okay, this really sucks because your dad absolutely needs to step up and defend you. Like, this is so rude, like unbelievably rude. And the fact that she would so flippantly do that in the first place is crazy to me. If you're anything like me, you're probably a reasonable human being, and if someone wants to come along and eat dinner with me, I'm not gonna be like, "Oh, you can't be here. This is not okay." Like, that's just stupid and just really dumb. Because in my opinion, she knew what she was doing. She wanted to disrespect you and make a scene and make you feel awful. Like, nobody's just tagging along to a restaurant without going in. And if I'm being completely honest, it seems like your dad's stuck in the middle because he doesn't want to get involved. He doesn't want to take sides because he doesn't want to piss anybody off. But if you look at this from an outside perspective, you are absolutely not at fault here. So no, you're not the jerk, but your dad's girlfriend and his daughter are absolutely toxic pieces of garbage. Because the fact that they would do this in the first place is so disgusting. Am I the jerk for not hosting my friend's baby shower, all while I'm still recovering from having a baby? Because my friend's calling me selfish and saying that I'm making excuses for not doing this for her. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to get started, I'm a 30-year-old female and I just had my first baby 6 weeks ago. I knew postpartum would be tough, but I wasn't ready for just how hard it really is. I'm still recovering physically, barely getting any sleep, my hormones are all over the place, and I'm trying to keep up with a newborn. My friend, who we will call Sarah, is pregnant and due in a few months, and she asked me to host her baby shower at my place. She said I've got a nice house, I'm good at planning stuff, and since I've already got baby things around, it should apparently be easy. Well, I told her gently that I'm just not up for it right now. I suggested other friends or offered to help help pay for a venue, but I really cannot host it myself. And when I said this, she didn't take it well. She said I'm making excuses, saying that it's not that hard, and now she's telling people that I'm being selfish since she threw my bridal shower years ago. I feel super guilty, but I also feel like I need to focus on healing and my baby. So be honest with me, am I the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, you are not the jerk. Your friend's an idiot. You literally just had a baby and she's trying to be like, oh, you're being so selfish. This is not that hard. And it's like, bro, if it's not that hard, then you do it. Or find someone else because apparently it's so easy. Because this kind of attitude is super toxic. My cousin seems to think that he deserves a cut of my salary every month, all because I got hired after talking about job hunting in his living room. Because right now, this is honestly one of the weirdest situations I've ever been in, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. A few months ago, I visited my cousin for a casual afternoon hangout. I had just moved into my own place in the city, and I was in the middle of job hunting. And this hangout was nothing serious. We were just catching up and talking about where life was heading. While I was there, one of his friends came over and he seemed really cool. The three of us then ended up talking about careers and choices and timing, you know, just the typical adult catch-up stuff. And I happened to mention I was looking for roles in a specific industry. It wasn't a pitch or a request, just part of the flow of the conversation. Well, apparently that friend remembered, because a few days later, he reached out and said he might be able to connect me with someone hiring. I followed up, I sent my resume, and I went through the standard hiring process that is interviews, reference checks, the usual. And a few weeks later, I got the job. It was a great opportunity and I was so thankful he helped connect me. Now, my cousin said congrats at first, but soon enough, he started acting strange. He began saying things like the job only happened because I was at his house when the conversation happened to take place. And it's then that he started hinting that he deserves something from it. And it got to a point where he was bluntly suggesting like a small cut of my salary every month. But then one day he actually sent me his bank details and said that I should send him some money regularly since the connection came through his house. Now, I never replied, but then I started hearing about the awful things he's been saying behind my back to literally my relatives and even mutual friends. It still blows my mind that someone thinks they deserve money just because I talked about my goals in their living room. Because right now I feel completely blown away and I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, this cousin is a money-hungry piece of garbage. Dude, who in their right mind would do this to someone in their family? So you're telling me that just because the original poster got a job, all because they talked to the right person who helped them then talk to the other right person, somehow means they're entitled to their paycheck? Like, what's happening? Like, this is the worst attempt at a shakedown I've ever seen in my life. Like, just because something good happened to someone else doesn't mean that you get a cut of whatever they're making. Like, dude, what's going on right now? So yeah, your cousin sucks, and honestly, I would not respond to him probably ever again, because he sounds like a massive weirdo. My entitled coworker demands that I help her out at the drop of a hat, all because I'm single and I don't have any kids. But when I finally refused to do so, she snapped at me in a way that truly showed her true colors, confirming to me that no, I will never help her with anything ever again. Here's how it happened. So my coworker has 2 kids and a full schedule, which I totally get. She's tired, overwhelmed, and always juggling something. But over the last few months, she started expecting me to help her with things outside of work, such as running errands, moving furniture, babysitting, and this is all because, in her words, you don't really have responsibilities like I do. But it's like, I work full-time too. I pay rent, I cook, I clean, I care for my elderly dog, and honestly, I enjoy having weekends just to breathe. But apparently, because I don't have kids, my time is automatically open season. Last week, she told me to help her pack her garage on Saturday, and when I said I had plans, she just rolled her eyes and said, oh, it must be nice to have a life with nothing important to do. And you know what? That's when I snapped a little. I told her just because I don't have children doesn't mean my time is worthless, and that her choices don't entitle her to mine. Once I said that, she got quiet, and I now have not heard from her ever since then. And honestly, I'm not sorry for even a second. Yeah, I will never understand people who act this way. Just because someone doesn't have kids doesn't mean you get to boss them around. And I'm talking with work or life or anything. It seems like there's always someone walking into some other single person's life and trying to be like, oh, you're single, that means you have no plans. You don't have the responsibilities that I do. That means you have to do whatever I say. Thinking that your time is somehow a commodity that they get to steal away from you. So honestly, good for you for putting your foot down and not putting up with this crap, because this kind of behavior is completely uncalled for. Am I the jerk for not rearranging a funeral for my cousin after she literally said she was going to be 90 minutes late as she wanted to stop and get something to eat before coming to the funeral for my father? Here's what happened. I'm a 21-year-old male and my father just passed away. It's just me and my 2 other brothers and distant relatives. We have more family friends than we do close family, so we try to value the family we do have when we get to see them, and we had his funeral yesterday. Now, our cousin, who's a 24-year-old female, who I will call Karen for the sake of the story, lived with us for much of her life because her mom struggled. She was a single mom in and out of difficult situations. I wouldn't say my dad solely raised her, but he played a big part in it, so they were close. But since she turned 21 or so, she's moved out of state and hasn't really come around much, which honestly is completely fine. She volunteered to make slideshows for the funeral, and I honestly thought that was great. One was going to be right before the eulogy, and the other was going to be right afterwards. Until yesterday, she didn't mention having any scheduling conflicts, but then sprung it on us that she was picking up her mom from the airport in the morning and that she might be late. And it's like, okay, fine, whatever. This just meant that she would maybe miss most of the viewing. But then she starts calling during the viewing saying that they had to eat and would be about 90 minutes late, and asked if we could request pushing things back. And mind you, everything was already in motion. I said that maybe the order of events could be changed, but there was too much going on, and I didn't get the chance to talk to the funeral home, so things proceeded as normal. I stopped answering her text messages, which she assumed meant that things got moved around, but when she eventually arrived towards the end of it, missing, most of everything, she got pissy with me afterwards, saying that I was selfish and that talking to the funeral home could have been quick and easy, and now she and her mom felt robbed. And now she's ranting on social media about her jerk family, and yes, she's talking about me, denying her from being able to see her tributes. And mind you, her tributes are on her stupid computer or CapCut or whatever she used to make them. I stupidly texted her briefly and said I wish it could have worked out, but she just reiterated that I'm a selfish jerk. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because I really don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, this really is infuriating. First and foremost, I'm so sorry that your dad died. That really is awful, and I hope you and your family's doing well, because the way Karen's treating you is completely unfair. Her behavior is cruel, unusual, and very entitled. You mean to tell me that she wants the entire funeral held back, all because she wants to stop and get something to eat? It's like, dude, what are you talking about? That is crazy. You cannot honestly be saying that everybody should hold up what they're doing just so you can grab a snack from a restaurant? Like, what's going on right now? That is so unbelievably selfish, especially considering the context. So for me, and I can only speak for myself, if one of my family members was spreading this kind of garbage online, I would absolutely fight fire with fire. I'm not saying you should do that, but I would absolutely be setting the record straight. I would say equally as loud exactly why they didn't show up on time. And it's because they wanted to eat food and wanted us to wait for them, which is so dumb. Because no, it's not going to be easier just to talk to the funeral venue, because instead the better thing to do is to show up to the funeral on time and just come hungry if you need to. Like seriously, people are mourning the loss of someone and you're thinking about your next meal. So for me, I would shout it from the rooftops and I would be like, oh, we want to get weird? Let's get weird. I'll tell everybody exactly how this actually went down. Because regardless, this kind of behavior is incredibly toxic and you definitely do not deserve this. An entitled hotel guest took off with our car keys and refused to bring them back, stating that if we wanted them back, then someone's gonna have to follow them and go and get it, leaving me completely blown away that someone would actually do this to us. Here's what happened. Okay, so we were staying at a hotel in La Jolla, and for reference, this is a very nice hotel with great service. We called down to the valet to get our car brought around from the garage so we could visit my older mother at her nearby residence. Well, when we get down to the valet station, there is no car in sight, and even after waiting, we still have no car. The valets go check and discover that our car is in the garage, but apparently the key is missing. After checking around, they look at the security footage of the valet stand, and they see that a hotel employee had placed the key on a stand by the valet desk. And before valet could get to it and go over to get our car, another hotel guest had just walked up and taken the key. The guest then proceeded to get in their own car and drive off. The hotel contacted the guest by phone and told them that they had taken the wrong key and that they should return with it. Well, the guest responded that they were driving to Oceanside, about 20 miles away, and that they were not going to turn around. So a hotel employee got into a car and started driving after them and asked them to name a spot where they could stop and meet up so that they could turn over the key. Well, the guest responded that they were going to go on to their destination, so the employee had to go there too if they wanted the key back. Meanwhile, we used our backup key to drive our car to visit my mom. When we got back to the hotel, our key had been recovered, and the hotel had sent a good bottle of wine to our room to apologize for the incident, and the staff was embarrassed and very apologetic. But here's the thing, I don't blame the staff. The staff is great. They went above and beyond anything I would ever expect. The idiot who grabbed a random key without bothering to check if it was the right one, and then refused to alter their plan at all to get it returned, that's the thoughtless jerk that we blame. And if you're wondering how they drove off with the wrong key, when the valets bring the car down from the garage, they leave the key in the car at the valet station, usually either above the sun visor or in a cup holder. So the impatient idiot's key was already in their car waiting for them when they stole our key, because of course they were too important to wait another 10 seconds to ask somebody or to even go check for themselves, which really makes this whole situation incredibly pointless. Man, imagine being so entitled that you not only take the wrong key, but you don't even bother taking it back to the valet station. And instead you're like, oh yeah, we're gonna drive away. Like if I knew I took someone's like car key by accident, I would turn around immediately. I'd be like, dude, I'm so sorry. This is awful. Let me bring it back to you. Or something like that. Don't just drive off. So yeah, these people were entitled jerks because they could have easily turned around and fixed this entire situation. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not letting my brother's girlfriend be in our wedding family photo? As my brother is constantly dating someone new every 2 months, and I simply didn't want a stranger in our photos that he's gonna break up with in just a few weeks. Here's what's happening. I'm a 28-year-old male and I recently got married. Everything went well overall, but there was a bit of drama involving my brother and his current girlfriend. Basically, my brother has a new girlfriend like every month. I'm not exaggerating. He never had a relationship that lasted longer than 2 to 3 months, and we've all just kind of gotten used to it. It's even like a family joke to an extent. So when it came time to take our official family wedding photos, I got him to the side and I asked him politely if his girlfriend could sit out of that specific photo. And mind you, this is another girlfriend who he had been with for about 2 months. We included her in the casual shots, but for the formal family portrait that's going to be framed and hung up in our home, I just didn't want to include someone who we probably won't ever see again in a month or so in our family picture that will stay with us forever. Well, when I said that, he got really upset and said that I was being disrespectful to him and his relationship. He said I'm acting like his relationships don't matter. My dad then came and convinced him for a moment to take the photo without her, but they left early after taking the photo, and now he's barely talking to any of us. Worst thing is that my mom is on his side and said I should have included her and that I can't know if their relationship is gonna last or not. And now both my brother and my mom are mad at me. I don't feel like I did anything wrong, and I've got nothing against her personally. I mean, she seems nice, but I know my brother. I don't think he takes relationships seriously. He had more girlfriends last year than I had in my entire lifetime, and honestly at this point I'm not sure if I'm the jerk or not. Dude, there's no way you're the jerk. This is so stupid. Your brother dates girls all the time and he's constantly breaking up and hooking up again, and he's trying to be like, oh come on, let my new girlfriend be in the photo. Meanwhile, next week they're probably gonna break up. Like the clock's ticking on this relationship. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, and the fact that your mom and brother are mad at you is incredibly dumb. My entitled mom wants to eat our wedding cake top as some kind of like family event. So my wife and I are planning to perform a cake heist where we sneak in there, get our cake unannounced, and then get out of there before she could do anything to it. Because right now I've completely run out of options, and at this point I don't know what else to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so we're coming up on our first wedding anniversary, and it falls on a Monday of this year. My mom approached me recently and told me that we could cut into our wedding cake top with the whole family the day before our anniversary because she wants to be part of our anniversary celebration and the weekend is more convenient for everyone. Now, I was planning to cut the cake with my wife only on our actual anniversary. The cake top is in my mom's freezer, and she has a full-size freezer in her garage, and we only have a small apartment-size half freezer. Now, of course, I doubt the cake will be as good as the day we had it, but it's more so for the symbolism of our anniversary. For my parents' anniversaries, we've never been a part of it. They go on trips without us, and they've never asked us to join them, so I'm a bit frustrated at this double standard. My wife and I would not mind sharing the cake with them after our anniversary, but from talking with my mom, it sounds like she wants us to make it into a family thing, and that just doesn't seem normal to me. My mom also caused a lot of unnecessary drama and stress surrounding our wedding last year, in that she wanted to forego hair and makeup that my wife had arranged for, and we would cover the cost of, mind you, and would laugh condescendingly at us when we tried to express our viewpoints on why these things were important to us. She also tried to invite a bunch of people, even though she was not paying for anything. So from that experience leading up to our wedding, I learned that she lacks respect for myself as an adult, my wife, and our marriage. My wife and I thought the best way to resolve this is to perform a cake heist, as I don't want to risk giving my mom a heads up and allowing something to happen. I'm not sure if she would eat it directly out of spite, but I also wouldn't put it past her. So seriously, what's everyone's thought on the cake heist itself? I plan on just going over there unannounced to secure the cake, because right now I seriously am completely out of options. Okay, first of all, I want to say that your mom absolutely would eat that cake out of spite. She would throw it away, she would sabotage it. Like the second you say no, we're doing our own thing, is the second she's gonna be like, oops, I threw it away by accident. So pulling off a cake heist, in my opinion, is the best plan possible. I would take that cake and run, dude. She absolutely is gonna try and pull something if you don't listen to her. And it's so weird that she's trying to somehow make this all about her. Like she's trying to be like, oh, this is an anniversary and we're gonna make this a family thing. When in in reality, it seems like she just wants to take away from your big day. And that sounds really annoying. Like, that really sounds super frustrating to me. So hopefully you have a successful heist, because this sounds like a possible nightmare waiting to happen. Because I know if I was in this situation, this is exactly what I would do. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for not letting my friend eat off my plate, even though she paid for the dinner? Because now she's treating me really differently, and my friends are saying that I was being dramatic. And at this point, I'm not sure if I made a mistake. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this happened last weekend, and I'm still kind of annoyed about it. I'm a 22-year-old female, and I went out to eat with my best friend, who we will call Amber. We've been close since high school, and we usually split stuff or take turns paying, but this time she offered to treat me because I helped her with a job resume, which was really sweet. Anyways, we go to this cute diner. I order pancakes with strawberries and whipped cream, which is my favorite, and she gets an omelet. When the food came, she immediately reaches over with her fork and goes, "Oh, let me try a bite." But I literally just said to her, "No, can you not?" Because one, I was starving, and two, I have a thing about people picking at my food, even friends. Like, at least ask me first. She kind of laughed it off, but then she said to me, "Girl, I paid for this meal. I'm basically renting those pancakes." But I told her that paying doesn't mean that she gets bites of my food, and now she's kind of being weird about it, saying I was rude and ungrateful. I said I didn't ask her to pay, and if she only did it to sneak forkfuls of my plate, then she can chill next time. Our other friends said that I was being dramatic, and it's not that big of a deal to share food. But like, for me, it's not about the food, it's the boundary. So am I the jerk for saying no, even though she paid for the food I was about to eat? Because right now, I'm not sure if I made a mistake. Okay, I think I can definitely see where the original poster's coming from. If she had asked first and said, "Hey, can I try a piece of the pancake?" or something like that, then I probably would have been like, "Yeah, sure, take a bite." But it's the fact that she reached over with her fork and is like, "Okay, let me get some of that right now." Like, that's really weird and super entitled, especially for her to say like, "Oh yeah, I'm renting those pancakes." It's like, no, you're not. You paid for it so that I could eat it. If you wanted pancakes, why not get it for yourself? Like, this is kind of weird. So no, in this scenario, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think what you're saying completely makes sense. A stranger I was sharing a room with in the hospital demands that I give her my wheelchair so that she can run some errands. And even though I told her that this is my personal wheelchair and I own it, she still decided to give me a weird attitude, leaving me completely baffled at the entire scenario. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I've been in the hospital for just over 2 weeks, and my legs are almost completely paralyzed. So I can't even stand, let alone walk. And this is a known thing on the shared ward I'm in. But today, I'm highly likely to be discharged. And simultaneously, the woman in the bed next to me has day leave, so she can run and get some errands. She has her leg in a cast, so she can't exactly walk herself, but obviously there are options and accommodations which the hospital can provide. Her and I have had a few pleasant conversations and get along pretty well. I mean, you sort of have to when you're in this forced close quarters. But what she said genuinely baffled me. She asked me if she could borrow my wheelchair for her day out, rather than use a hospital-provided one. Now, bear in mind that this wheelchair is my personal chair, and without it, I'm completely immobile, and I would be stuck on this hospital bed. She knows this information, but she still had the gall to get upset when I said no. Even if I wasn't getting discharged today, it's still my personal wheelchair, fitted to my specifications, and everything is set how I need it. This wheelchair is my legs, so she is essentially asking to take my legs. She had such a grimace on her face when I said no, and hasn't said a word to me ever since then, not even looked in my direction. I'm just so baffled as to why she would feel entitled to my personal wheelchair. It's like, lady, you're in a hospital. Use one of the others, but don't try to take mine. Yeah, that is a very weird scenario. I can't believe someone would be like, "Hey, let me borrow your wheelchair." Because the next thing you know, she's gonna come back and be like, "Oh, this was always mine." And then you're out of a wheelchair and you're like, "Wait a second, what's going on here?" Then it's this big thing and it's like, dude, I do not want to deal with this. So no, if she really wants a wheelchair, then guess what? Use one of the ones the hospital can provide. It really seems like she only wants yours because it's probably a lot better than the hospital provided ones. And that, in my opinion, is not a good enough reason for her to take it, because who knows if she will ever give it back. Am I the jerk for talking to a guy in such a way that literally shut down all of his questions about my job? Because everybody I talk to makes me feel like the bad guy. And at this point, I'm not sure if I made a mistake. Here's what's going on. I'm a 27-year-old female and I work at a summer day camp. Now, for a bit of background information, the summer camp I work at is connected to a gym, so the gym guests and our campers have to share the same bathroom in both the men's and women's restrooms. We have 2 stalls reserved for just the kids to use and have a sign posted in front of those stalls that they are literally just for the kids. The summer camp staff is primarily women, and we have very few male staff. We have one male site director, but directors are always busy and they're not always available. Now, part of my job at the summer camp is to listen and watch out for kids so that they can be safe while they use the bathroom. This is to make sure that the kids aren't playing or being inappropriate with each other, and that adults aren't approaching or talking to them in the restrooms. Whenever I'm watching over the boys in the restroom, I'm always in the doorway of the restroom. I never go all the way in unless I need to. Now, male guests will see see me and be slightly startled because there's a woman in the men's restroom, but they don't care because they already know about the summer camp. Now, I was doing the same thing I do every single day by standing in the doorway of the restroom, telling my boys to occasionally hurry up so I can send the next kids in, when all of a sudden a tall, balding, middle-aged white guy stops in front of the locker room door and stares at me for a minute before he starts talking to me. And trust me, this guy is incredibly weird. He says to me, "Excuse me, ma'am, do you know there are children in here?" I say to him that yes, I know that. And he says to me, "Do you know there's adult men here too?" When he questioned me again, I said, "Yes, I do know." He then said to me, "Well, I don't think it's appropriate for a woman to be in the men's restroom." I said to him, "Well, I understand that, sir, but it's just part of my job." He then started to question me and say, "Well, what's your job? I don't understand why you're in here." So I explained to him, "I work at the summer camp. My job is to make sure the kids don't go into the stalls or let adults talk to them." He then literally asked to speak to a manager. And when I explained to him that this is my job, he literally circled back and said, "Well, why are you in the restroom?" But I just responded back by saying, "This is my job." To which he said, "Oh, but that's inappropriate that you're in here." I then said to him again, "Sir, this is my job. I need to make sure that children don't go into the same stalls or let adults talk to them." He then said to me, "Okay, but you're standing and hanging out in the men's restroom, having a whole conversation with me." But then I just interrupted him and I said, "Sir, you started talking to me first." Now, mind you, I was calm and did not move from my spot in the doorway at all during this whole interaction. But after I said that, he took a pause and stomped away into the connecting locker room. I stayed in the doorway until my kids finished their business. I then told my director and a few other camp counselors about the whole interaction, and they were completely on my side. My director even told the gym's front desk receptionist about what happened to me with my description, and they said they'd keep an eye out for him in the future. Now, even though almost everyone was on my side, when I told a few relatives about it, they said that I shouldn't have escalated the situation, and I should have just left quickly to get a male staff or my director. Now, I don't think I'm the jerk, but those relatives are making me second guess myself. And at this point, I'm honestly just not sure if I made a mistake. Now, you definitely did not make a mistake. You are not the jerk here. That guy was being super creepy and weird. First of all, you were literally looking out for the kids. You were taking care of them. You were making sure they were not getting lost or hurt or anything like that. And you literally were just doing your job. And then this guy comes up and is like, what are you doing here? This doesn't make any sense. And despite the fact that you tried to explain it to him, he still just was refusing to understand. So personally, I think your relatives are idiots for being like, you escalated the situation. Because dude, what did you do? You sat there and calmly just explained why you were standing there. You weren't causing a scene, this guy was. Because if anyone's a jerk in this scenario, it is definitely that weird guy. Because his interrogation of you was completely uncalled for. My former job refuses to give me the raise that I absolutely deserve, saying that I'm not working enough overtime all because I'm leaving my job on time. But eventually, I found a job that was paying me 60% more than what this company was paying me, and I'm now way happier at this job than I've ever been in my life. Here's what happened. A couple years ago, I was working for a corporation as an analyst. Company culture was that working insane overtime was bragged about and praised, when in reality, these people are working overtime because they do so much meaningless work that could be automated in a dozen different ways. I've always been very flexible with my time because my management has always been flexible with me, such as needing to take a long lunch or leave early for an appointment, stuff like that. And I've always been very forthcoming about this. However, if I don't have to work late, I'm not doing it. I finish all of my responsibilities during normal work hours and I wrap things up neatly at the end of the day to have a smooth start to the next week. Now, I had been in this position for a little over a year and I went into it knowing that I was being severely underpaid, and I'm very confident in the output of my work. I've always got great marks on performance reviews and constant praise for what I was doing. So I felt deserving of a raise and I requested it. And the amount I asked for was 20%, which is large, I understand. And I debated that for a while because I knew I was not getting the full amount. But this is how severely I was underpaid. And I knew that 20% was the cap by our company's policies. Well, I was immediately rejected any raise because I come into the office at 8 and I leave right at 5 o'clock, while everyone else stays late, and that I never offered help others out when they're overloaded, which basically means that they work late while I leave on time. The first part of this supposed feedback actually came from someone else who worked on our floor, and I never even worked with this guy in my life. My manager was all about perception and not really about the reality of things, which I understand is general corporate culture, but that doesn't mean it's not BS. So I think to myself, okay, I can change that. Around 4:30 every single day, I would ping my manager asking if there was anything she needed help with to finish out the day, and I documented all of this in a Word document. So day in and day out, there wasn't a single thing she ever asked me to do in addition to the work I was already doing. I would even test things out and stay until about 5:30 some days, just to see who else is working late, and very seldomly has anyone ever been in the office like 5 minutes past when we're supposed to leave. Eventually, my manager said I don't need to be checking in with her at the end of every single single day. I said, okay, no problem, but I just want to let you know that you can always reach out if you need help with something, because I can't be expected to know your workload if you don't communicate. Our relationship stayed very strained after that. I was desperate to leave the company, especially once the raise was fully rejected after receiving above average performance review for being in the job for only a year. Finally, I got another offer about 5 months later that was a 60% raise. My prior company then offered me the same 60% raise and a promotion, but I took the new company's offer and I've never been happier in my life. Oh man, good for you for going with the other company. I would have done the same thing. Any company that's gonna be like, oh wait, you're leaving? Oh, just kidding. We'll give you a 60% raise now. Here's a new promotion as well. Please stick around. It's like, dude, where were you when I was like, all I want is a 20% raise. I just want to get paid what I'm worth. Like, seriously, give me the amount I need. Like, you already were getting severely underpaid, and these people are trying to be like, oh, you're not staying late long enough. Sorry, but you're not going to get paid more. And it's like, dude, who is staying late? Like, literally nobody is. So good for you for going in a different direction, because this job does not sound very fun. My dad's friend got revenge on their jerk neighbor after this neighbor stole a parking spot that was snow plowed out specifically for an elderly father's car, resulting in this idiot neighbor getting their car blocked in for the entire winter. Here's what happened. Okay, if anyone is familiar with Chicago in the winter, there's this thing called dibs. This is where you clear the snow from the street directly in front of your house and put something in the spot, like a lawn chair or a couch or something like that, just so you can keep someone else from parking in it. Now, this was a very heavy snow, with an Arctic blast forecast to come in the late evening. My dad's friend cleared the snow in front of the house so his elderly father could park. He was gone just a few minutes to get his dibs item, but when he returned, he found his neighbor had just parked in the spot. He then told this neighbor that the spot was for his dad, but the neighbor just laughed and said, oh, you didn't have any dibs, too bad. Well, this is where things get really interesting. Later that night, my dad's buddy came out and built a ridge of snow around the car, about a third of the way up to the door. Since it was wet and heavy snow, it packed really well. He packed it up nice and tight and created a barrier around the car. He then grabbed his hose and filled the area under this neighbor's car, knowing that the Arctic blast would take care of the rest. The next morning, he was woken up by the neighbor pounding on his door, screaming about their car. The water had frozen completely solid underneath the car, and we're talking through the wheels, partially up the doors, and into the lower part of the engine. The car was unable to be entered and was completely immobilized. Well, the neighbor called the cops. My dad's friend explained the situation and heard both sides of it. At the end of it, the cops told the neighbor that what he did was wrong and he got what he deserved. Now, as much as it was an inconvenience for my dad's friend, that car sat there for the next several months until it thawed out. The neighbor even called several tow companies, but because of the ice, nobody would touch it. Obviously, the neighbor never did that again, and also, for some unknown reason, the neighbor never talked to my dad's friend ever again either. And also, this happened about 40 years ago, where most people weren't so happy back then as they are today. Okay, I love that last little bit where they're like, yeah, it was like 40 years ago, so it definitely didn't happen like in today's day and age, because I can absolutely see somebody not only suing you over this, but also the cops being like, okay, you gotta clean this up or else you're going to jail or something like that. But also, as someone who has lived in like a really snowy area before, this is absolutely a thing. If you dig out a spot in front of your house, it's yours and you absolutely deserve every right to it. Like if I took the time to clear out a spot so I can park my car and someone stole that spot, dude, I would lose my mind. And in Chicago, no less, where the winters are brutal, like, dude, there's no way I would let that go. So I love this revenge, like I really do. It's something that you will never see today, but it absolutely was deserved. Like that cop hit the nail on the head, dude. There's no way this guy didn't deserve that. And the fact that he laughed in this guy's face and said, too bad, so sad, for me makes this entire scenario so much better. My entitled friend demands that I cancel my kid's birthday party just to attend hers, saying that her kid's birthday party was way more important than mine. But now that the dust is settled, my friend is no longer talking to me, still clearly pissed off that I didn't cancel everything that I planned just to show up to a birthday party for her 2-year-old. Here's what happened. Okay, so me and my two friends have been a trio ever since middle school, and ironically enough, all three of our oldest children have the exact same birthday but different years. Me and my friend, who I will call Tanya, have boys that are ages 8 and 10, and my other friend, who we will call Lauren, has a 2-year-old daughter. A few months ago, Tanya and I decided to plan a bowling and laser tag birthday party for our boys. We told Lauren about the party and we invited her, and she said she would try to make it. Now, the party was on the weekend and not the day of their actual birthday. Well, a few days before the party, Lauren FaceTimed Tanya and I to invite us to her daughter's birthday party, and it was on the same day as our boys' party. Now, truly, this is no big deal. It's the weekend after their birthday, so we knew the parties would eventually clash. Now, we told her that we wouldn't be able to make it, and we thought that was that. But the day after the party, Tanya and I FaceTimed Lauren to ask her how her daughter's party went. We saw pictures online and thought the decorations came out beautifully. I mean, we were were all ears just waiting on the details of the baby girl's second birthday, but instead we were met with anger. Lauren starts asking why we didn't show up, and it's like, are you serious? We were at our boys' party and she absolutely knew this. She then tells us that we were supposed to cancel their party and come to her daughter's. When I asked her why she would think we would ever even consider doing that, she said that a second birthday party was more important than an 8 and 10-year-old's party, and that we should have just picked a different day. Now, I'm not one to argue, so I just tell Lauren that she's tripping and I hang up the video call. The next day, I noticed she logged me out and changed the passwords to a streaming account that we shared. And it's like, are we being serious right now? Because I guess to her, it really was that serious. Now, I haven't talked to Lauren ever since then, but I can't help consider the fact that maybe I did something wrong here, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, this is probably the most self-centered person I've ever seen in my life. Not only did she expect you to show up to this stupid birthday party for a 2-year-old, who by the way is not even going to remember that birthday party, but she also psychically just expected you to cancel your party and come to hers. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? Why not just bring your stupid 2-year-old over to this party and everybody gets to be happy? In fact, you don't even have to plan for decorations. The 2-year-old is not going to remember their party, but the 8 and 10-year-old, yeah, they're absolutely going to remember that. So the fact that Lauren would blow up her friendship all because of you and Tanya not going to her party is insane. That is another level of selfishness I've never seen in my life, and there's no reason for you to feel bad at all. She is being so selfish and entitled, it honestly is ridiculous. So no, you're not at fault here, you definitely didn't do anything wrong, and the fact that she expected this out of you is completely insane in my opinion. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay my friend back for her package that was delivered to me without my knowledge? Because after I had to pay $50 just to collect it, I decided to keep some of the items in it as I didn't know it was hers. And now this has caused a massive argument and a lot of drama, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my friend and I are currently having an argument over the stupidest thing ever. For some context, I order things online a lot, and recently I ordered a few things from a popular brand. Now, my packages were split up, so what I ordered could have come on 2 separate days, which I didn't mind. I picked up the first package, and a week or so later, I kept seeing notifications in my email about a package pop up. And mind you, this has a completely different tracking number than either of my split up packages. I checked my bank account to see if maybe I had ordered something and I didn't remember, but that wasn't the case. So I brushed it off and I ignored it. A few days later, the mystery package and my original package came up as delivered. So I went and collect both of them since they were both addressed to me. And for the mystery package, I paid $50 to clear it. Well, as soon as I got home, I dug through this package since I had paid a good buck to collect it, and I was curious and I thought the company gifted me free items since I shop on their site quite often. There were slippers, shorts, dresses, and a few other things in the package, all of which I had never personally ordered, but they were good picks. I gave away one of the dresses and I'm currently wearing one of the shorts while typing this. Now, on to the actual tea. My friend sent me a message today asking if I had received a package recently, and I said yes, and obviously started telling her about all the freebies I got. She then asked what exactly I got, and when I told her, she said it wasn't free, but instead it was supposed to be hers. Now, how is this, you might be wondering? Well, she placed an order from the same site I buy from and put my address in it to have it delivered to me. Now, did she ever tell me about this before today? No, of course not. Am I shocked and low-key kind of upset? Yeah, kind of, because why wouldn't she just tell me about that? I then told her that I took 2 of the items since I initially thought it was mine, and that she could have the rest of her stuff if she really wanted to. Now, what's the cause of this argument? She said that I would have to pay her back for the 2 items that I took, but I refused because I had to pay $50 to collect it, and my other friend works close to where she lives, so she would get free delivery too. She then called me a selfish jerk and has been telling our mutual friends and my mom about what happened. She's been saying that I stole from her and refused to pay her back. My mom's saying I should pay her to keep the peace, while my friends are all split on the situation. So seriously, am I the jerk for refusing to pay back my friend after she ordered her package to be delivered straight to me? Because right now, I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. No, I don't think you're the jerk, not entirely. I think there is a situation where she just pays you back the $50 and you give her back all the crap that she sent your way. Like, that really could be a possible solution if you wanted to go that route. It's also worth noting that never in any universe would I pay $50 to collect a package that isn't mine. Like, straight up, I would be like, no, that's not mine, and then I would not collect it. Like, I don't care what's happening. So no, you're not the jerk, but also she could just pay you back, and I'm sure this could all be figured out. Because yeah, your friend's an idiot for doing things the way that she did. And if she had simply let you know that this is what you're doing, then this all could have been worked out in the end. The owner of the restaurant I worked at literally yelled at 2 families on Father's Day as they were leaving, as he was pissed off at the kids of this family, stating that they were being rowdy. And after discovering that this guy has an anger issue and he really is not a good boss, I'm kind of not surprised that he turned on this family in the way that he did. Here's what happened. To start things out, the owner of my restaurant came in for Father's Day dinner with his family. I was serving two families that happened to run into each other, so they were both in booths back to back. While they were eating dessert, their kids were playing with each other beside the tables. Now, I absolutely hate bad parents and kids running around, but these families were very nice. And the kids weren't in the way at all. The tables were in the corner of the restaurant even, with nobody except the owner's table around. Now, I'm relatively new here, but I have 10 plus years in the industry, and it's a brand new restaurant, but from what I've seen, this guy has an insane temper problem, berating staff, telling new bartenders he's gonna fire them if they make a mistake, just an all-around awful boss. Anyways, it comes to a point where he asked my general manager to ask me to tell their kids to behave. At this point of their meal, they're both about to pay and leave, so I refuse because there's no point in doing that. I take their payments and both families are super happy. But when I leave for 2 minutes, all of a sudden, the owner's at their tables yelling at them for not watching their kids and disturbing his important guests, which by the way is his own family. Now, I just needed to rant because I have no issue telling kids or parents off, but these kids were genuinely no problem, and they weren't causing a disturbance at all. Not to mention they were getting up to leave when he went over to them. So what would you do in this situation? Because right now, I'm not sure what to do. Dude, someone in the comments section pretty much stole my comment because like literally I would be looking for another job. There's no way I would stay working there. If this guy is literally the owner and is willing to yell at another family like that, then you better believe you're next on the chopping list. Like this guy's even going up to bartenders and being like, oh, if you make a mistake, you're gonna be fired. And it's like, wow, thanks, man. That's gonna make me do my job well. I'm not gonna be on edge all the time trying to make sure I don't make a mistake. Like, what is this guy doing? What an awful person. So yeah, that's what I would do in that situation. I would start finding literally anything else because this guy does not sound like a good boss, and I guarantee you he will yell at you at some point in the future. Am I the jerk for leaving a note asking someone why they kept parking in a specific way? Because their current parking job literally blocks my walkway. And after they responded back with a passive-aggressive note, it's making me question if maybe I overreacted, because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my next door neighbors, which are 3 to 4 20-year-old something women, have been blocking my access to my front door and walkway in a really weird spot for a while. Instead of pulling forward to the curb, they stop right in the middle in front of my house and completely block access to my walkway. And for reference, there is no sidewalk as my walkway starts from the street. And at least 2 of them are either oblivious or inconsiderate at parking. If they pull forward maybe 2 to 3 feet to the curb, I could safely and easily access my house and it would be fine. But in the current spot, it's really awkward to try and scoot past their car or have to walk through my garden bed. Usually the mailman just tramples my flowers to get around and it's like, oh man, there goes my sage plant. Yesterday, while trying to get home, I tripped and fell hard while trying to get around their car. I was extremely frustrated, and after nearly a year of quietly putting up with their weird parking jobs and a handful of other incidents, I decided to leave the following note. I said to them, is there a reason you're not pulling forward all the way and blocking access to my house? I'm tired of delivery drivers commenting on my parking job when 95% of the time it's someone from your house parked here, even when your driveway in the street in front of my house is empty. Well, they responded and they said the following. They said to me, I sincerely apologize for blocking your walkway yesterday. I am happy to move my car forwards in the future, and I will pass this along to my roommates. I can assure you it was not intended to cause any discomfort to you, and I think this is a good opportunity to remind you how valuable kindness, connection, and community are right now. I don't believe we have ever spoken or introduced ourselves. I live beside you and I am a person. I have a whole entire life with challenges and feelings. Now, I have frankly put up with a fair amount over the last year from them where I have not spoken up, from tenants moving out and them leaving junk on my corner that literally blew into my yard for over a week, so I had to clean up after them. Not to mention their Christmas tree that kept ending up in my yard after I put it back, and they tossed it instead into my neighbor's yard across the street. They've caused damage to my garden bed rock wall from poor parking, and yet despite all of this, I have dealt with all of it politely and quietly up until now. I'm good friends with my other neighbors next door and friendly with everybody else. I did introduce myself to one of them when I first moved in, but she moved out shortly afterwards, and frankly, they haven't been very neighborly, so I have no interest in trying to establish a relationship with them. Also, other neighbors have described this house as a kind of circus wheel of people moving in and out. So with all that in mind, was my initial note really that offensive, or is her response just a passive-aggressive attempt at shaming someone for speaking up? Because right now, I'm still incredibly frustrated. Oh yeah, they're trying to be passive-aggressive, 100%. Them trying to be like, oh, I have feelings and challenges. We need to be kind and have connection and have a community. Like that is literally some weird attempt at trying to like avoid responsibility, and that is obnoxious. There's no way that's appropriate. And no, this is not the same as someone parking in front of your house. Instead, this is literally them blocking the walkway to your house. Like, I can imagine your house sitting right there on the street, and instead of moving forward just a little bit or backing up just a little bit, so you have access to your walkway, they're just choosing to park right in front of it with no care in the world. So for them to be like, oh, we need to be kind and have community. But it's like, dude, if you had community and any kindness, you wouldn't be parking there. You would have some kind of self-awareness to be like, okay, I gotta move my car. Or at least send a note back by saying, oh, my bad, sorry about that, let me move my car out of the way from here on out. Like, why respond back with some weird passive-aggressive attitude? Like, that's so stupid. So no, you're not the jerk, and those neighbors are absolutely at fault, especially with that crappy message that they sent back. My entitled neighbor makes my life a living nightmare by disrespecting me and my space in a way that was completely unacceptable. So I decided to get some revenge by not only buying the lot between us that he was taking advantage of, but also getting the police involved to finally shut him down. Here's what happened. So my husband and I are buying our first home together. When we moved in, we quickly found out that our neighbor wanted respect that he wouldn't give anyone else. He was pretending to own the lot between our houses, and he had the nerve to confront our contractor about leaving his truck on it. Mind you, he had 4 junk cars parked on the lot already. He was also letting his dog crap on the lot and never cleaned up any of it. Not to mention that he never put a leash on the dog and just let him out freely even without looking to see if we were outside. To add insult to injury, he started playing his music at any time of day and night as loudly as possible. Well, one day we got a notification from the city that we could buy the lot. And you know what? We absolutely purchased it. Then, when he refused to stop letting his dog out or to remove his last junk heap, I started calling the police and animal control. And I called them 4 times in 1 week, even going as far as having his junk heap towed by the police. He got so mad that he tried to confront me in front of the police. He was like, what is it now? First you don't want my dog on your lot, and then you call about my music? Why are the police here now? Well, as a result of all of this, he now keeps his dog in his yard, and he stops playing his music before 10 o'clock p.m. because sometimes people really just need to be put in their place. Dude, I love this because this really is the best kind of revenge you possibly could have gone with in this story. Like, this guy was being super disrespectful, he was trying to claim everything around him, and I can completely see this type of person doing something like this, making your life a living nightmare. So good for you for buying it and basically shutting this guy down entirely. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for not wanting to give up my room for my pregnant sister after my mom literally volunteered my room without my permission? Because right now I feel like a jerk and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I still live at home with my parents while I'm finishing grad school. I pay rent, I help out around the house, and generally I try to stay out of everybody's way. My older sister is married and recently found out she's pregnant, which I'm genuinely happy about. I really am. But this is where all the drama starts. She and her husband are in between apartments because their lease ended and their new place won't be ready for another 3 months. My mom suggested they move in temporarily, and I was fine with that until I found out my mom offered them my room. And she didn't even ask me first. When I brought it up, she said that I should be more understanding because my sister is pregnant and needs the space. Now, I offered to share the room instead of giving it up entirely because I have a desk, my books, and my entire life in that room. But my sister said it's not comfortable to share with me and that she needs the rest of the space. Their plan is for me to move into the smaller guest room, which is basically a storage space with no closet, and live out of boxes for the next few months. But I said no. I told them I am willing to share or help rearrange things, but I'm not giving up my whole space like I don't matter. My sister then called me selfish, and my mom said that she's disappointed in me. Even my dad, who usually stays neutral, said it's not a big deal and that I should be more supportive. I now feel like a villain in my own house, but at the same time, I don't think it's fair to be treated like a placeholder in my own home just because I'm the youngest and not having a baby. What should I do? Okay, this would be really frustrating for me because there is no way I would be okay with this. These people seriously want to sit there and be like, oh, we're giving your room away, you need to move. And it's like, nope, that's not how it's gonna work. I pay rent, I have rights, and you're not gonna pull that crap. Like, you should not be expected to have to move your entire life at the drop of a hat, all because your pregnant sister is trying to move in. That is not how this works. That is absolutely inappropriate. So truly, I do not think you're the jerk for not wanting to move. Their demand and their request is completely irrational, and that is not something I would ever hold up in the slightest. An entitled Karen tries to cut me in line, literally by just walking right in front of me at the checkout line, forcing me to shut her down in a way that I'm sure she was not expecting. Here's how it happened. So a few days ago, I went to buy some essentials for my baby, namely some formula and diapers, so not really the smallest amount of shopping to do. As I was browsing the store, there was an elderly lady dictating her husband what to put in their cart. I kind of just rolled my eyes over that, but I didn't mind any further. But when it came to standing in line at the cashier, the line was kinda long for that store, like 6 to 7 people waiting. The guy in front of me was putting his stuff up the checkout belt, and I was still waiting to do the same thing as he was still going on and sort of blocking my way. Well, here comes the entitled Karen, formally dictating her husband. She had a few things in hand and went to stand between me and the guy in front of me, expecting me to let her skip the line. Now, it's safe to say that when there's not a long line in the back and a person really just has a few items, I will surely let them skip. But as soon as I start putting my stuff on the belt, ignoring her standing right there, she then starts to get pissed off. She says to me, "Excuse me, you should let me go first." I respond by saying, "Well, I wouldn't know why. There are a lot of other people you didn't ask behind me." She then says, "But I only have a few items." But I then point out and say, "Well, what about that full cart your husband has with him?" "But I'm in a hurry." "Yeah, and I want to be back home with my baby soon as well." After this back and forth, she then realized that she won't skip me and tried every person in line behind me. And ironically enough, she didn't even realize that they had opened a second checkout line that she literally could have gone in instead of bothering me and everybody else. Am I the jerk for telling another kid at the pool to please move out of our way? Because right now, this kid's mom is calling me the jerk, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that my family is on vacation. Our condo complex has this pool that my kids call the fidget spinner pool because that is exactly what it looks like. 3 wide areas that connect with a big part of the pool. 2 of the wide areas are 3 feet, and one of them is 6 feet, with the center of the pool being about 4 feet. So me, my daughter, and 2 nieces, ages 10 through 13, are all at the pool together. There's another family with 3 kids and 4 adults. We're in one of the 3-foot sections, and they're in the other, and I'm tossing dive toys for my 3 kids. Well, a girl that's probably 8 years old from the other family comes over and asks what the kids were playing with. They then show her, and they ask her if she wants to play as well. She says, "No, I can't go underwater." And then she goes back to her family and gets in her inner tube. She then slowly floats her way over to the section that we're in and is now floating right in the middle, blocking my kids from being able to throw the dive toys and go get them. Now, I say to her, "Can you move that way just a bit? They want to throw their toys and I don't want you to get hit by the toy." She then just turns herself away from me and just doesn't move. My niece then says, "Let's go to the deep section. It will make it harder anyways." So that's exactly what they do. They go over to the 6-foot section where no one is, and lo and behold, the little girl floats herself over there. I then hear my niece again ask if she wants to play, and I'm not sure if the girl responded, but she just didn't move. So the kids just throw the toys around her, and they all then dive for them, and of course are splashing as they dive down. Well, when this little girl gets splashed, she loses her mind. I see the mom start moving towards her, asking what happened, so I start walking over there too. As my kids are popping back up out of the water, she gets splashed again and screams, "They're splashing me on purpose." The mom then looks at my kids and in a gruff tone says, "Don't you 3 know that it's not nice to splash people? Learn some manners." I then say, "Well, my kids were playing over there when your girl came over. They asked her to play and she said no, but didn't move. So my kids came over here. Your kid then floated herself over here where she was asked again to play and she again refused and just floated there. It's not their fault she was in the way of their game. She purposefully came over here. Maybe she should learn some manners." The mom then replies by saying she is only 8 years old. She then tells her daughter, "Come on, some people are just rude." So I need to know if we did something wrong. Are we the jerks for splashing this kid even though we tried to avoid her? Because right now I'm still incredibly pissed off. Dude, this is one of those situations where you literally did everything right. You tried to ask the kid to move, you literally moved yourself, and yet still she showed up and just floated there in the way. And then she wants to sit there and be like, "They're splashing me on purpose," when she's the one who's actively obstructing anybody playing a game. It's like, are you kidding me right now? This is so ridiculous. And the fact that the mom's trying to be like, "Wow, you are so rude. She's only 8 years old. I can't believe you." But I'm just sitting here thinking like, okay, well, if she's 8 years old, then maybe you should watch her better. Maybe you should watch where your kid's going and not allow her to get in the way of other people. Like, this is not the original poster's fault at all. This literally doesn't fall on you in the slightest. And the fact that this entitled Karen's trying to blame it on you is ridiculous. So no, you're definitely not the jerk because you and your kids did nothing wrong. My entitled male coworker is constantly treating everybody like garbage at work, as he has consistent outbursts and is really mean and stubborn to everybody around him. But after he tried that crap with me, literally as I was trying to do my job, I decided to clap back in a way that truly shut him down. And now I'm wondering if I made the right decision or if I crossed the line in some way that will ruin my job. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I'm part of a team of 6 developers and I'm the only woman on the team. We have several teams and I get along well with everyone. I'm usually thought of as nice to everyone and just joking around, etc. And I've heard several coworkers tell me that they enjoy working with me. But today I got into an altercation with one of my male coworkers. He is stubborn and is known to have outbursts at people, especially if we don't do exactly as he wants us to. He seems to struggle with nuances and gets mad at you if you don't solve something code-related in the way that pleases him. He has been working at this company for over 10 years, whereas I've only been here a year, so there's that. I've never been micromanaged by someone as much as him, and he is not even my manager or my boss. In short, the altercation was this. I was handed a document with descriptions of how certain software components in our code base is intended to work. Some of the descriptions are newly revised, so I have to rewrite code to fit the description. The descriptions were unclear, so I decided to email the engineer who had written the document. He is very well versed into the system design of these components, and for the sake of the story, we can call him Marcus. Well, as I was typing my email, my male coworker exploded. He was yelling at me and saying, "I know these things. You should ask me. Stop bothering Marcus." Now, I'm usually cold in these situations and I don't really care about his outbursts, but this one really caught me due to his usage of the words bothering. I was typing a 2-sentence email, and he made it sound like I was sending Marcus hundreds of emails. I then looked back and I responded, "I'm sorry, are you my boss or something? I'm emailing him because I want his explanation since he has written this document." This guy then responded to me by saying, "You're so rude. That was so rude of you." And I was like, yeah, then go cry about it. When I said the last words, the entire landscape went quiet. Usually, no one stands up to this coworker, and he is having angry outbursts without anyone stepping in. And this is the first time I stood up for myself. So I really need to know, did I do something wrong in this situation? Like, is it normal to have these outbursts at coworkers? I'm second guessing myself all the time, but I really feel like he's being the unreasonable one. What should I do? Dude, this is absolutely not your fault, and in my opinion, you did the right thing. This is one of those situations where this guy was messing around and he found out real quick. Like, clearly he's some kind of like spoiled brat, and no one's ever corrected him in the 10 years he's worked here, and so it looks like that has to be your job now. Because you're right, you literally were not doing anything wrong. You were asking the guy about the code that he wrote and trying to get information, and then this guy butts in out of nowhere. Like, you did not ask him for his help at all. He went ballistic because guess what? This is probably like a learned behavior. He treats everybody like this, so he was probably blown away when you're like, yeah, get lost and cry about it. As if you need any help from him. Like, are you kidding me right now? And even look at the way he reacted when you were literally sending an email to someone that wasn't him. Like, of course you're not going to ask him for help. Look at the way he acts. Like, I'm pretty sure this would be his same reaction if you did ask him a question. He would probably scream and cry and be like, "Why are you asking me any questions right now?" So no, you're not the jerk. This guy deserved to get shut down. And in my opinion, it's something that probably should have happened much sooner than later. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boyfriend does not want us to go to my best friend's wedding, all because his birthday just so happens to fall on the same day. And now he's making me choose, forcing me into a situation that I honestly really hate. Here's what's going on. Okay, so this story's about my boyfriend, and we've been dating for about 2 years now. My best friend's wedding is going to be on the same day as my boyfriend's birthday. My best friend was really excited when she sent me the invitation because she genuinely wants both of us to come. Yes, the both of us. She's inviting my boyfriend too since they were workmates for a few months. Now the thing is that his birthday is that day. And of course, I want him to be my date to the wedding, especially since it'll be our first time attending a wedding together. I was really excited when I told him over the phone that he was invited, but I didn't expect his reaction. He ended up sulking all day because it's his birthday, and it felt like he was making me choose between them. I assured him that we could celebrate his birthday in the morning, and I even have a surprise planned. The wedding is in the late afternoon, so I thought we could do both. I never said I wasn't going to celebrate his birthday. It's just that I can't control the fact that my best friend's wedding and his birthday fall on the same day. They both mean so much to me, but when I tried to explain that my best friend's wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event, he got even more upset. I also reassured him that this doesn't make his birthday any less special, but he is still sulking about, and at this point, I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I think your boyfriend is being completely irrational, because guess what? You're 100% right. This wedding happens once, and his birthday happens every single year. Is it really that big of a deal to be like, look, we're gonna try and do both, or we could do your birthday the next day? You're not neglecting him. This is just literally an extenuating circumstance. So in my opinion, I think your boyfriend's acting like a child, and the fact that he's not being more cooperative is really a telling sign, and that's a red flag I absolutely would not ignore. Am I overreacting for telling my neighbor off after she kept borrowing my tools without asking from my property? Because right now I'm being called the jerk and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I live in a pretty close-knit neighborhood, and for the most part, everyone is friendly. But there is this one neighbor who is an absolute Karen who's been borrowing my gardening and household tools for months now, which she she is doing without asking me first. At first, I thought it was just forgetfulness or that she assumed it was okay. But when I started noticing my tools disappearing for days or even weeks, I politely asked her if she could please let me know the next time she needed something. When I said this, she brushed me off and said, "Oh, I just assumed it was fine since we live so close." Fast forward and it just kept happening. And one day I went over and I found her using my electric drill without even telling me. I then told her, "Please don't just take my stuff without asking. It's mine and I need it sometimes." She then seriously got defensive and said that I was being too sensitive and not neighborly. I ended up telling her that she needs to respect boundaries or I can't lend her anything anymore. Now, some of my neighbors are saying that I'm overreacting and that I should be the one to be nicer since she might have had a rough time lately. But honestly, I feel disrespected. So am I overreacting for standing my ground and telling her off? Because right now I still feel incredibly pissed off. Dude, I don't care how close-knit a community is. The second someone starts stealing my tools and not giving them back is the second I'm gonna get really pissed off. And it sounds like this Karen is using everybody else's friendliness as like an advantage for her to get free stuff. Because what's gonna happen is that she's gonna borrow something, she's gonna forget she has it, and then try to be like, "Oh yeah, no, that's actually mine." And then you're stuck having to buy new tools, and it's like, dude, this is not fair. The reasonable thing here is to ask if you want to use something, and then maybe you'll say yes. But her assuming this is okay is just so messed up in my opinion. So no, this is not an overreaction, and the fact that she thinks it is completely insane. My stepdad treats me like the housemaid, while also never doing anything around the house himself, and it's getting to the point where I simply can't take it anymore, and I now just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm a 19-year-old male, and I'm turning 20 in a week. Last night, my little sister wanted a bottle of water before going to bed, and my stepdad started complaining because she grabbed one of his water bottles. Now, mind you, we have a tap, but for whatever reason, we all just kind of refuse to drink from it. We also have a water dispenser that no one wants to fix. So basically, we have no choice but to use the bottled water in the fridge. What annoys me isn't even the water thing. It's the double standard. They always expect me to do chores around the house, even when I've been gone all day. Meanwhile, everyone else just sits around and does nothing, and somehow I'm still the one who gets asked to clean up. They tell me to wash my dishes every time I eat, which I actually do, but when my sister leaves her plates out, nobody says anything. On top of that, sometimes their stuff ends up in my room, and they still call me messy for it. And then when I try to point it out, they'll just hit me with, "Oh, well, who pays the rent around here?" But seriously, that doesn't mean I should be cleaning up after everyone's mess, especially when they don't even clean up after themselves. The worst part is the hypocrisy. I've been told, "Well, if there are no dishes in the sink, wash your plate." And it's like, cool, I do that, but they don't. So there are always dishes in the sink and it's their dishes. And somehow it's still my fault? I mean, make it make sense. My sister, for the record, doesn't even go to school right now. She just stays home and plays Roblox. She's messy, she's younger, and honestly gets treated way lighter than I ever did at that age. At this point, I feel more like the family maid than anything else. And right now, I really don't know what to do. Oh man, that really would be so frustrating. I see exactly what you're talking about with this double standard, and honestly, that would drive me insane. I would be super frustrated dealing with that, like seriously. I know if I was in your shoes, I would be planning to move out and find roommates or something like that, but obviously your situation might be more nuanced than that, so I can't say, oh yeah, just move out, because who knows what's really going on there. But hopefully something changes and you're able to like figure out a better situation for yourself, or they're able to see that, yeah, there's a double standard and it's really not fair for you, because you definitely should not be expected to be the maid of the house, and everyone really should be carrying their own weight around here, because otherwise it's just completely unfair. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for wanting to cut my mom out of my life, all because she went to South Korea despite the fact that she's in horrible debt? Because right now I'm still pretty pissed off and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my mom is currently in South Korea on vacation with my oldest sister, which took all of us by surprise because my mom is poor and in debt. For just a bit of backstory, my parents divorced and my dad was deported when my siblings and I were quite young. So we grew up poor, constantly asking for help with rent and food from our church. It was humiliating for my mom, and sometimes she could get loans from loan sharks and just end up in a lot of debt. My mom has less debt now, but she still struggles with money. Early in my marriage, my husband and I saved up about $2,000 and we gave it to her as a gift to help her out. She is still my mom and I care about her. Later, when her car broke down, my husband and I decided to give her the car that we currently had. We knew that she didn't have a car and it could affect her ability to go to work, making it much harder for her to earn any kind of income. Well, last year, as a gift, we took her back to her home country, covering the flights, the hotel, and even new clothing and luggage. When I was younger, our family always talked about going to see her homeland and meeting her relatives there, but we never had the money to make it happen. Finally, my husband and I were able to make that happen, even though my brother and sister couldn't join due to their own finances. finances. Now, my oldest sister could have come, but she was saving for a trip to South Korea, and that was surprising to me, but I thought maybe she wanted to wait until everyone could go. 6 months later, my oldest sister was in fact going to South Korea, and my mom wanted to go too. I initially kept quiet about it, but then my mom brought up this old idea of us pulling our money together to pay off her debts, and this immediately angered me. My husband and I were still in school, we're working full-time jobs, we're paying our own bills, and we're actively trying to avoid debt. While we're not struggling like my other sister and my younger brother are, we are certainly not rich either. That trip and the $2,000 we gave my mom took a long time for us to save up for. So I snapped back. I said to her, "Why don't you use the money for South Korea to pay for your own debts?" And when I said this, my mom went silent. Apparently, my mom and my brother had a huge fight about this, and for reference, my brother currently lives with my mom. He works 3 jobs and pays rent, while my mom covers utilities. He's told me there's often no food at home, and he's even considered going to a food bank, and this absolutely enraged me. I genuinely feel for my brother. While he's been at fault for most of his past choices, as he was lazy, played video games all day and night, and got constantly fired from jobs, he's now making an effort to get his life back on track. He's working hard to pay off his own debts, and we respect that. So my brother got mad at mom for wanting to go on this trip. It just doesn't make sense given the debt that she has, and how much they have both been struggling. My mom, however, argues that she deserves this trip after working hard for us for years, claiming that she's never been anywhere and doesn't count her home country as a real vacation. And you know what? My oldest sister completely agrees with my mom. Now, my mom did work incredibly hard for us as a single mother, enduring grueling hours as a nanny, a cleaner, and working graveyard shifts at a nursing home. She never bought herself new clothing, never went out and partied, and never brought home men or had any other boyfriends. Her life was dedicated to working and providing for us, and that's precisely why it made sense to us that she deserves something nice before she passes away. Guys, my mom is in her 60s and still works as a custodian. We're truly worried she won't make it another 10 years, and that's also another reason we didn't wait to take her to her homeland. Still, the whole situation left a weird taste in my mouth. I thought her going on this trip would undoubtedly strain her relationship with my brother. Well, I was completely wrong. 2 days after arriving in South Korea, my mom asked my other sister for $500 to cover the hotel since my oldest sister was leaving earlier than she was. My other sister and her husband are doing okay, but they're struggling more than my husband and I. They're both working hard, and her husband is also going to school. So my sister explained to my mom that they're living paycheck to paycheck and apologized for not being able to help out. And you know what? My mom's response was chilling. She told my sister she was glad she didn't have the money because it just confirms that they are not doing a good job in their lives and they need to get different jobs. And this was a shocking turn, as my mom had been happy when my sister got her current job. She then questioned, "What are they going to do if she gets pregnant?" Which is another ironic statement, considering she wanted my husband and me to have a baby when we were living in his demon grandma's basement. My mom added that she could have asked her coworker, but wanted to ask family first. Finally, she declared that my sister and brother would no longer receive their life insurance money after she dies until they're in their 40s. And mind you, this is all because my sister didn't give my mom $500 for a trip that she decided to go on, despite not having the money to do so. My sister sent me the message and I was absolutely furious. My sister is my best friend and the one I consider to be my real mom. She has always been there for me, protected me, and has been the one that's been helping me through everything. She's the one who knows all my deepest, darkest secrets. I always told her that I don't care if nobody else showed up to my wedding because her presence was the only one that truly mattered. Well, my sister was crying in the bathroom stall when this all went down. Not because of the money, I mean, my sister couldn't care less about that. She was crying because of how my mom reacted. This whole situation infuriated me. So I messaged my mom, telling her not to treat my sister like that ever again. This behavior is not like my mom. I mean, when did she become so greedy? And she only asked my other sister for the money and not me. When she found out I knew, she told my sister how cruel she was for showing her messages to me and said that now she was even more mad at her. This wasn't the first time my mom had treated my sister in such a manner, but it was the first time she had reacted so harshly or that the situation escalated to this point. My other sister had always been a pushover for our mom. My older sister and I could always say no or argue, but my other sister was never able to. Whatever mom wanted, she did it, even when it didn't make her happy. She even moved to New York and was quite content there, but my mom called her and told her to come back, promising that if she returned, she wouldn't have to pay rent and could just save some money. And of course, that was a complete lie. My mom also complained that my sister had abandoned her and wasn't a good daughter for moving to New York. And by the way, this constant dynamic seems to only happen to my sister. It's almost as if my mom hates her, and we just can't understand why. My sister has always been there for our mom, yet whenever she tries to do something for herself, our mom acts like it's the worst thing imaginable. Nothing my sister does ever seems to be right in her eyes. My mom messaged me back saying that I need to respect her and that I need to stop because what she wants to do with her money is her choice. She said if we wanted to take the car back, then we should do it. And if I never wanted to talk to her ever again, then that's fine with her. So with that in mind, I'm at a loss of what to do. On one hand, I obviously want to cut my mom out of my life and take back the car that we gave her. I mean, I'd rather give it to my sister-in-law who lives with us. She's been having car problems and I know she would treat the car better and actually pay for it. And as a side note, my mom actually got furious when we had my brother-in-law and his wife move in with us, simply because we didn't ask my mom to move in with us, since apparently she needs the real help. We actually asked them to move in to help them escape demon grandma's house, but that's an entirely different story. Now, the idea of cutting her out breaks my heart because I love her and I will miss her terribly. I miss her smile, her hugs, her cooking, all of her dancing. I simply miss my mom, but she's hurt my sister once too many times. Her behavior is awful and I'm fed up. My brother is completely on our side as he doesn't care about the money either and says that he stopped depending on our mom years ago. We're worried these outbursts are signs of Alzheimer's or dementia. My mom always says that she's forgetting things and we've been meaning to get her checked out, but what if it's not? My brother's and my birthdays are coming up and at first I considered not inviting her, but I feel bad because I don't want to ruin my brother's birthday. My other sister said that she'll be there only if the rest of us are there, but she will avoid our mom. And to be honest, I don't even want to see my mom. So do we just deal with it and keep our distance, or do we just cut her out completely? Do we take away the car since she said that we could? She doesn't own the car and my husband has the key to it, and my husband wants to talk to her when she returns, but I'm worried that she'll snap at him. She also deleted the toxic message that she sent to my sister, but at this point the damage is already done, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, your mom sounds like an awful manipulative person. Like seriously, if I was in your shoes, I would be putting up a lot of barriers and a lot of I don't know, boundaries of some kind. She clearly is taking advantage of all of your kindness and all your generosity. Also, she can go on a vacation that she can't even pay for. And now it's so funny that she's trying to be like, oh yeah, take back the car if you need to. It's like she's trying to fall on this sword when it's like, yeah, you're right, I probably should take it back. But I guarantee you, the second you do take that car back, she is going to hold that over your head forever. She's gonna be like, wow, you're just as bad as your sister. You don't care about your mother. You're leaving me without a job and not able to get around. So if you go that route, that really is what's gonna happen, but if I was in your shoes, I would definitely do it anyways. Like, I can only speak for me, but there's only so much disrespect I can handle until I finally snap and I say, okay, this is not happening anymore. You're not gonna talk to me like that, you're not gonna talk to my family like that, and you're definitely not gonna take advantage of me being kind to you. Like, seriously, what is she doing, man? This is so stupid. She's throwing these temper tantrums because she knows she'll get what she wants, and that sucks for everybody involved. Like, seriously, that's not fair for you or your siblings or anybody. So no, you would not be the jerk for cutting her off, because from the sounds of it, she does not sound like a good person in the first place. My entitled neighbor keeps sitting on our back patio, despite the fact that it's clearly not theirs, and we've told them several times to get lost. Here's what's going on. So I live in a large apartment complex that is only 2 stories, but really spread out. Every 2 apartments have back patios that are attached to each other, but it is still obvious what side is yours and what side is your neighbor's. I've never had any issues with this newer neighbor before this, so I was rather stunned when he became an issue all of a sudden. To access the back patio, we have a sliding glass door that you access from the living room, and in my living room, my recliner is right next to the sliding glass door. So about 2 weeks ago, I'm sitting in my chair watching TV, and my husband is at work, and I can suddenly hear my neighbor very clearly talking outside, but in this instance, they are talking so loud. Thinking this is odd, I lean forward and I move the shade over the door, and I am stunned to see my male neighbor sitting in a chair right in front of my sliding glass door. Now, I am very disconcerted by this, but I am alone, and I don't feel comfortable telling him to move while I'm alone. I mean, after all, I don't really know him. My husband comes home and I tell him, and he goes right outside and moves his chair once the neighbor had gone inside that was blocking our door. Well, about an hour later, the guy comes back out and tries to move the chair right back to where it was. I was still watching TV, so I could hear the dragging sound. I then opened my door and I told him he couldn't do that. This was our side and not his. And when I said that, he says to me, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know." Well, fast forward, and when I come home 2 days later, his chair is right outside the door yet again. And this time I take a picture with him in the chair. I moved his chair 3 more times since I really did not want to have to report him to the landlords, but he simply kept moving it back. Well, yesterday I reported him as he was sitting in his chair, while also showing the picture that I had taken. And trust me, the landlord's eyes were as big as saucers when she saw it. She was out there within 5 minutes to tell him that this was a no-no and to not do it again. When I told her that this had been going on for a while, she asked why I did not report it before, but I told her I had hoped that we could just settle it between us and that I didn't want to escalate it if possible. Because honestly, it seems like privacy means nothing to anybody these days. Yeah, for me personally, I'm a very private person, and I know for a fact this would really bother me. Like seriously, just stay on your own side. You can sit out there and talk as long as you want and as loudly as you want. Just do it at the hours where it's appropriate and just stay off of my side of things. Like I'm an easy guy to live next to, just literally don't bother me and don't invade my space and we will get along just fine. So I know for a fact any neighbor doing this to me would drive me absolutely insane. My entitled mother-in-law is literally throwing a separate birthday party for my son right before the one I was planning just to try and make mine look bad. She's even gone as far as posting this online, literally confusing the people who were supposed to go to my party for my son. But now, after I told her she can't do that and basically shut down any plan she had, she's now saying I'm denying her grandmother rights, with my husband even saying that I should let her do it just to avoid a fight. And at this point, I'm so annoyed that I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my son is turning 5 next month, and I've been planning a small backyard birthday party for him. He's obsessed with dinosaurs, so I'm doing a dinosaur theme one with a piñata, a fossil dig game, and a cute T-Rex cake that I'm making myself. It's not fancy, but it is what he loves, and we're keeping it chill since money is tight. Well, my mother-in-law, who is the Karen of this story, has always been over the top. Last week, she called and said she's throwing a better birthday party for my son at her house, which by the way is literally the day before mine. She's booked a bounce house, a magician, and a catered taco truck. She didn't ask me or my husband, but instead just decided it was happening and invited all her friends' kids and not even my son's classmates. Well, I told her we're already having a party, and she can't just plan a separate one without talking to us first. Well, when I said that, she just laughed and said, "Oh honey, kids love big parties, and I'm just giving him the best day ever." Then she posted pictures on Instagram of the bounce house with a caption by saying, "Getting ready for my grandson's epic birthday bash." Now, people are texting me confused about which party to attend. I finally told her she's not throwing a separate party because it's my son's day and not hers. And now she's crying to my husband that I'm denying her grandma rights. My husband thinks I should let her do it to avoid a fight, but I'm honestly so annoyed. So am I the jerk for shutting this down? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated. Dude, you are definitely not the jerk, and yes, your mother-in-law is overstepping big time. First of all, your husband is spineless for not backing you up. Like this guy's just trying to avoid conflict with a mom who has clearly overstepped his boundaries forever, and he's now expecting you to do the same thing just to keep the peace. And under different circumstances, sure, I'm a big fan of keeping the peace and choosing my battles. But this is like a blatant disrespect towards you and like anything you're trying to do. She is literally trying to hijack your son's wedding just so she can look better and make you look bad. Like that's all that's going on right now. And she's forced your hand in a way that's like completely ridiculous. Like she's pretty much guaranteed the narrative is going to make you look bad no matter what. And it's going to take a lot of work for people to understand the truth, that instead your mother-in-law's insane and she did this on purpose. And what does she really expect? Does she expect you to just hand over your kid and be like, okay, go to your first party? Like, no, that's not going to happen. She can't just plan a party for your kid without your permission. Like, it's your kid. So no, you're not the jerk here, and your mother-in-law is absolutely overstepping her boundaries. Because I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I would have the exact same reaction. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled jerk and his girlfriend tried to steal our movie theater seats that were the prime spot in the theater, forcing me to put this idiot in his place and get him to move out of the way, as he seriously tried to guilt trip me all because he had to move out of my seats. Here's what happened. Okay, so my wife and I pre-booked 2 seats in the back middle of a movie theater to have a rare night out with a kid at home. This theater, by the way, only has 40 seats because these are fully lounge recliners with seat service. Anyways, when I pre-booked them online, no one else had yet booked any of their seats that day. So I'm thinking, great, maybe we get the place to ourselves. So we show up, walk up to our row, and a man and a woman in their late 20s maybe are sitting in our 2 middle seats that are the prime location due to the screen size and the angles. I say to them, hey, I think you're in our seats. And the girlfriend starts to unrecline and stand up to move when the boyfriend grabs her arm and looks around the empty theater and says, why? There's plenty of other seats available. To which I immediately reply by saying, exactly, so you won't have any trouble finding somewhere to sit instead of the seats we paid for. The girlfriend is uncomfortable at this point, and the guy says, seriously? And I just told him, look, you're sitting there because they're the best seats, which is why we booked them. He then grumbled and moved, and his girlfriend initially wanted to sit further away in the row, but he decided to be petty and sit right in front of us the row down. But you know what? The joke's on him. I had worked all day, and I removed my shoes once I reclined, and those feet must have stank really bad being 2 feet away away from their head for the next 2 hours. Okay, I will never understand someone legitimately stealing someone else's seats and then turning around and being like, why are you trying to make us move? You could sit anywhere. Almost as if them having to move is somehow your problem, even though those are literally your seats. Like, seriously, what's going on right now? Like, to be that entitled must be so exhausting. So I personally really love the way that you handle this, because that guy sounded like a miserable jerk. My entitled boss refuses to pay us on time and even decided to lie to me when I was getting this job by saying that if we work harder and faster, we'll get paid more. So I decided to get some petty revenge that truly put him in his place. Here's what I did. So I was working for this window company making plastic windows, but we were like a small workshop with 3 workers and 1 overseer, which belonged to one of the largest companies in the country. The boss always insisted on doing everything by the book for us, you know, as long as it didn't slow down production. If it did, then he just didn't care. But he himself always forgot to send work hours to human resources for us to get paid on time like it said on our contracts. Like, sometimes he would be 2 weeks late, which meant at that point you were late on payments. And our boss's boss was always hounding him, and he would just brown nose it and then try to lash out on us because he was yelled at. So overall, he was a very unpleasant person. It was the only job in my small rural town at the time, so I just endured it. After 3 months, I was given work boots, some pants, a jumper, and a coat. But in contract, it was clearly stated that you have to sign for all inventory given and return it if you quit. And he, of course, didn't give me anything to sign, and I didn't care at the time. When joining the job, we talked that we would get bonus on work done on time, and we even went as far as starting work so fast that he had trouble getting blueprints from the office as we finished our supposed workload in half the time the company expected. But of course, there was no pay increase. After the second month of no increase in pay and the big boss visit where they expressed surprise at how well we were working, I went to ask why we had no pay increase. He tried to weasel out saying that it wasn't official, which is apparently my own fault for not having it in contract. But I said that we talked about it and that this was his own offer in words. But you know what? He just smiled and grinned and said, "Prove it." Well, after that, I boiled inside for a week until I found a job in a town over and I just straight up quit. 2 days later, my boss calls me up saying I need to sign papers for quitting for human resources, and I just said, "Sure, come by my home and I'll sign it." He arrives and starts saying, "Okay, give me the equipment too." But I just said to him, "Well, I never signed for the equipment, so officially I never received any." He then got serious and kind of angry with me. He said to me, "Don't be like that. I know you've got it, just bring it out." So I said with the most satisfying look on my face, "Oh yeah? Prove it." The guy who stayed there said the boss got visited by the big boss and was seriously yelled at. And as he heard it, the cost of it was deducted from his pay. After 8 years, I still have those boots, and they still serve me daily very well. In fact, all the other clothing was really good quality too, and they're still being used on occasion, reminding me that just once I got one over on my boss. Okay, if this isn't like the best proof possible that you would ever need to say, yes, you need things in writing, then my God, let this be the example you can lean on. Seriously, this guy signed him onto this job and said, "Oh yeah, if you get stuff done early, then you get a bonus," only for him to turn around and be like, "Oh yeah, I never said that. You can't prove it either." And honestly, this is the kind of evidence I need to be like, okay, you need things in writing no matter what, especially with a corrupt boss who's gonna treat you like this. So good for you for getting your petty revenge, because this guy sounds like an absolute nightmare to have to work for. Am I the jerk for not hiring my cousin at my startup, all because my psycho aunt reached out and demanded that I do so? Because right now she's really pissed off and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So I have a tech startup and one of my aunts reached out because her son is looking for a job and has asked me to hire him. We are not close at all, but since they are still family, I responded and I asked her to have him message me directly so that we can have a chat and have him scheduled for an interview. Now, I did not say this exactly though, and I just responded with, "Please have him message me the soonest." Well, a week has passed and he has not reached out. My aunt then messages me again and says I should ping her son and tell him I'm offering him a job. And this is where I get a little pissed off, because for one, they are asking me for a favor. Why should I be the one to reach out? And secondly, I never said I'm offering him a job. So I said exactly that. I said I'm not offering him a job, but I'm offering an interview. And when I said that, she just completely lost it. She said her son has been jobless for a year, and in this economy, I should help them out. She then said to me, "Well, this is what family is for." She also then called me names and said that I'm such a jerk because I promised her a job for her son, and he has stopped applying since then. She's been flooding me with horrible messages since then, and at this point, I have no plans on giving my cousin a chance at all. So am I the jerk? Was my response really easy to misunderstand? Or is there something else going on here that I have nothing to do with? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Okay, I really cannot stand when family does this because I've run into this too in my own situation, and that is honestly so obnoxious. Like seriously, the dialogue started started by her saying, oh yeah, my son's looking for a job, but it somehow led to being like, oh yeah, he's being offered a job, and then, oh my god, why aren't you giving him a job? This is what family's for. And it's like, dude, if this is what family's for, then I don't want to be a part of this family. That really sucks, and I just don't want to deal with that. So no, you're not the jerk. You literally did nothing wrong. You were not offering anybody a job, and the fact that she assumed that was somehow coming along with just being related to you, that is really crazy and something that you should definitely not have to deal with. My idiot job is constantly saying they will fire us if we don't find someone to replace us for a shift that we're taking off. And despite the fact that this is literally the manager's job, I decided to maliciously comply by sending my deadbeat brother who's unemployed over to my fast food job that I was quitting, by the way, just to cover me for my last day of employment, resulting in my now former boss getting pretty pissed off at me. Here's how I did it. Okay, to start things off, I worked at a fast food joint when I was in high school, and this joint was stopped rostering staff after they turned 18 as they would need to be paid more. And for reference, I was 17 and a half at the time. Now, management was really lame. They would expect us to find a replacement for missed shifts, regardless of how much notice we gave. If we were understaffed, we would have to turn non-drive-through orders away, but otherwise it would be business as normal. Now, I had my final end of year 12 exams. I did 6 subjects, and the exam for each subject was held on different dates in November. I provided 3 months of notice, and yet still, I was asked to find a replacement the night before my exam, or I would be let go. Now, if an employee ghosted my boss at this point, they'd be let go, and my boss would typically find someone else to cover the shift, which is something that he should be doing by default. But you know what? This is not a problem. I texted my boss that I found a replacement, and it's then that I sent my deadbeat brother who was unemployed and on welfare for the past 3 years there to cover my shift. Well, my boss went ballistic. He sent me a barrage of text messages, blaming me for costing them money and informing me that I was let go. But I only read those messages after my final exam, and then I blocked him, because that kind of energy is not something I need in my life. Yeah, that sounds like an awful place to work. This guy literally lets people go the second they turn 18, all because he would have to pay them more? Like, what is going on right now? That's horrible business practice. Like, do you not want anybody to like be trained properly and have, I don't know, experience at your job? Like, why not have people on hand that know what they're doing instead of having a rotating staff of teenagers who are constantly being fired? That's so stupid. Like, literally, that really is lame. So good for you for getting one over on this guy, because he sounds like a complete moron. My entitled mom says that she's going to take away my college fund, all because I wouldn't stay at her house during my uncle's wedding. So now I've had to go to extreme lengths just to secure my future and make sure that she doesn't ruin it in a way that honestly is so unfair. Because right now I'm very frustrated and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, my uncle got married, and way before that I asked him if I could bring my partner to the wedding, and he and his wife were okay with it, but my mom was against it, saying that this was a family-only event, and then changing the reason each time the topic came out, mainly because she's homophobic and couldn't keep a good reason to exclude my partner without looking homophobic. It was stressing me and making me very annoyed, and so I decided that me and my partner wouldn't stay at her place during the wedding. I live in another city for college, and I informed my uncle, my mom, my dad, and another uncle about my plan, and it was fine until a week before the wedding. My mom suddenly asked me when my partner and I would be arriving at her house, and I reminded her that we wouldn't stay with her and already had arrangements for our stay. Well, when I said that, she was suddenly furious, saying I was destroying our family and that I didn't have any right to make a decision on my life while she was paying for my college. I then got angry and I said that I did this because I needed space from her and that the way she was acting was the main reason why I needed this. Then she said, well, if you want to be so independent from me, then so be it. I am no longer going to pay for your college. Now, after the wedding, when I came back to the city, I talked to my college counselor and my career coordinator to inform them about my situation. They were very empathetic and they came out with a plan in case my mom was serious about it. I then asked her in a very serious tone if she really meant this, or if it was just something that she said in the heat of the moment. Well, she didn't answer, instead saying that if I really wanted an answer, then I should talk to my dad, and he would have to check that I was mentally stable to continue funding my education. Now, for reference, my parents are divorced, but my dad has always acted like a mediator in important decisions because me and my mom just don't get along. So I just said, well, this wouldn't resolve anything, because this is a cycle. There's a stupid fight, my mom threatens with something, I have to talk to my dad, and then she acts like nothing happened, and then it just goes on and on. But this time was my breaking point. Dealing with her like this always stresses me out, and even affected my grades. So I talked to my college counselor and my career coordinator to discuss more about the plan. I can't pay rent and college while living in this city, so I will move in with my partner to live in the same city, and then just move to online classes for the rest of my career. Meanwhile, my career coordinator will help me get a scholarship to cover part of my college fees, and I will also find scholarships on large business and government programs to pay for college. I talked to my dad about it, and he seemed concerned about it and asked me if I was sure about this, but I told him about how tense my relationship with my mom is and how I can't trust my future in someone that behaves like that, and that relying on someone that threatens to take my future for any petty reason is not someone that I can depend on. He said that he definitely agreed and then asked me how he could help me out. So I told him that I just need the same help he was giving me since I moved from college. And for reference, he sends me money to pay rent, and I will just be using the same amount to spend it on rent, groceries, and any other doctor's appointments and medicine I might need. Well, my dad said this is fine and he will still send the same amount. My college fees for the semester were already paid for before the wedding, so I just have to get good grades and just not fail. But you know what? After I move in with my partner, I will go low contact with mom, inform her that she doesn't have to pay any college fees from now on, and that I don't want to be near her until she goes to therapy. I don't have any hopes that she will change, but the main reason I will maintain contact with her is because she pays for my phone bills. And sure, she wouldn't like it, but she will hate not being able to contact me in any way. And honestly, it's one of the few things that she's taught me when I was living with her. You hide anything and seek any weakness on anyone so you can know how to manipulate it at your own favor. And I know this is entitled from me, but it is some way that I can still communicate with my dad, as I don't want him to cover for more than what he is already giving me, which is the reason why I want her to pay my phone bills, and then maybe in a year I can pay for it by myself. My mom is the only one that is not aware of this. I plan to cut her off after I graduated college, but seeing how she threatened me this time, I will just go low contact with her. I had a plan before, but actively threatening my future over not staying with her during my uncle's wedding is so ridiculous. But it's not the first time she has felt entitled over me. She has pulled similar moves in the past, but honestly, it's nothing as serious as this. Oh my god, your mom sounds awful. Like, I completely understand why your dad divorced her. She seriously tried to throw your entire future out the window, all because he didn't want to stay at her house for this stupid wedding. Which, by the way, she knew about this, but instead decided, oh, I'm gonna make this into a big deal. Just you wait, you're gonna regret crossing me. Like, dude, what is going on right now? That is so dumb. But I've gotta say, with all things considered and all the details you've given us, I do kinda like your plan a lot. I think this is a solid plan of action, and no, I don't think you're manipulating anyone here. If your mom was to sit there and be like, oh, I'm gonna ruin your college career, and try to like cut you off from having any kind of education, then guess what? You need to make plans and you need to like prepare for her being crazy, because this kind of behavior is not normal. This is not okay. She can't just do that all because you didn't agree to one thing that she wanted that, by the way, you already discussed about. So hopefully all this works out for you, and hopefully you're able to get away from your psycho mom, because her behavior, in my opinion, is very detrimental and you do not deserve that in the slightest. An entitled jerk parks his Porsche across 3 handicap spots, leaving me with nowhere to park, as I most definitely needed that after having a surgery. So I decided to get some petty revenge by not only getting him in trouble, but also getting him banned from the Target I was shopping at. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this just happened yesterday. In late April, I hurt my foot and ankle, which required surgery, so I was given a temporary handicap placard. I then went to Target to pick up some groceries in the middle of the afternoon when I knew it would be dead. But here's the part that really blows my mind. A single car was taking up 3 spots parked horizontally across 3 lanes. A very nice Porsche is sitting there with no tags and no placards, and the passenger side window was wide open like an invitation. So I grabbed some dirt and gravel nearby and lightly sprinkled it all over the passenger seat for theatrics. Then I went inside and I told the front desk that I thought I saw a raccoon slip inside the Porsche hogging the handicap spots. And by the way, this is obviously a lie. They then announced over the intercom, asking the owner to come up. I stayed within viewing distance to see what would happen, which is when I saw a dude practically run over, yelling about his car, and calling the employees names for lack of pest control, clearly pissed off and very annoyed. Not long after, a big biker-looking security guard showed up, who then called parking enforcement to handle the parking violation. Long story short, this guy ended up being banned from that Target for his conduct, and honestly, I can't think of a better person for this to happen to. Yeah, you've got to be a pretty big D-bag to park like that, especially across handicap parking spots. So good for the original poster for getting this guy in trouble, because he absolutely deserved it. My boyfriend let his ex move in with him so that their kids could see their mom for the first time in 2 years. And this entire situation has me wondering what's really going on in that house, because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I'm a 23-year-old female and my boyfriend is 34. He has young kids from a previous relationship, and he let their mother move into his house a couple of weeks ago, saying that she had nowhere else to go and that he wanted her back in the kids' lives. And for reference, she hasn't seen the kids in over 2 years because of her alcoholism. I don't live with him, and I'm also not able to go to his house anymore because she is always there, and it would just cause some huge drama. He snuck out out of his house last night to come see me, and we'd only been together for a few minutes before she called him 4 times in a row, screaming at him to come back to the house or she was going to throw his stuff on the lawn. He promptly left me to go back to the house and fight with her, and it was obvious she wants to get back together with him and she's just jealous. He claims that he hates her guts and that he would never cheat or do anything with her. And by the way, she cheated on him, which is why they broke up. However, I am extremely skeptical of any living situation where a man and woman similar in age are together, separate bedrooms or not, especially when it's your ex, for crying out loud. It's unacceptable to me, and I tried to break up with him over it, but he begged me to stay. So please, be honest. Is there any chance that they're not spending quality time together, if you know what I mean? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Dude, this sounds like a mess. Like, seriously, what is going on right now? You're telling me that your boyfriend is letting his ex move back in with him, and now she's actively trying to get in the way of your relationship with him? Like, I'm sorry, this sounds crazy and there is no good excuse for this. This literally screams, oh yeah, she's trying to sabotage your relationship. And the fact that he would even allow this to happen, like, good lord, set up visitations or something, don't let her move in with you. Like, what's going on right now? This seems really stupid. So I know if I was in your shoes, I don't think I would ever want to deal with this because this sounds like way too much drama for me. I would honestly be so turned off by this, I would not want anything to do with this relationship. So hopefully you can figure out some kind of silver lining here because based on what you told us, I don't see anything anytime soon. An entitled jerk demands that I turn off my music in my own backyard as he claims that as a Christian, it's godless and he doesn't want to listen to it. And honestly, after he said this, I was so blown away. So much so that I decided to fight back, stand up for myself, and put him in his place. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I grew up in the 80s listening to post-punk, new wave, goth, new romantics, all the alternative bands from the UK, the United States, and Canada. A lot of it is in minor key, heavy on the bass and drums, wailing synths, crusty, distorted guitars. I think you get the picture. Today on Sunday at around 10 o'clock in the morning, I went out to the backyard with my Bluetooth speaker, a book, and a coffee to enjoy a beautiful spring morning. I placed my speaker on the table next to me, I queued up my favorite playlist, I settled in, and I started to read. My next door neighbors, with whom I have a very friendly and positive relationship, hired a contractor to replace their gutters. This contractor, by the way, is apparently a family friend, as he arrived on Friday and stayed for the weekend. They had a couple of nice evenings in the backyard, grilling up steaks and ribs, having drinks, and swimming. I should also mention that they are evangelical Christians, only because it is relevant to what happened next. And I just want to say, I have nothing against them. I myself am Catholic and I fully respect other religious beliefs. My neighbors left early to attend their regular Sunday church service, leaving the contractor, his wife/assistant, and teenage daughter to finish the work on the gutters. And as it happened, they were working just over the fence from me, maybe 10 meters away. My speaker, which is not particularly loud, as it was right next to my head, began playing a song by The Cure. And the song title is The Walk, and trust me, if you know, then you definitely know. Right then, I unexpectedly heard a voice. "Excuse me?" I then looked up over the fence to see a man looking at me. I say to him, "Oh, hey, how are you? Great job on the gutter." He said to me, "Yeah, thanks. Listen, can you turn that music off?" I said to him, "Oh, what? I didn't think it was very loud. I'm sorry." And when he said that, I really was taken aback. But then he said something that really just kind of blew my mind. He said, "No, it's not the music. We don't appreciate that godless music. It's all about death and violence." And when he said this, I was really speechless. I looked at him just completely stunned for another moment. The song was still playing, heading into the final chords. He then said to me, "Look, I'm not trying to be a jerk. That music doesn't go with my Christian beliefs, and I don't want to hear it or my daughter listening to it." Even though, fun fact, neither his wife nor his daughter were anywhere nearby. I looked at him and I said, "Well, I'm sorry, but I'm in my yard listening to my music. There's no rule against that unless it's after 11 o'clock p.m. I then said to him, "I'm sorry, but if you don't like it, then that's not my problem." The song Life During Wartime started playing, which was as poppy and danceable of a tune that could ever come out of the 80s. He then said to me, "It is Sunday, and like I said, it is seriously against my Christian beliefs to listen to that music." I responded back by saying, "Well, again, I'm sorry if you don't like it, but it's my business what I do in my yard. If you don't like it, put earplugs in or something." He then snapped at me and said, "You're not being very Christian right now. I shouldn't have to listen to it, especially on Sunday." He then quoted something from the Bible about the wicked and God making them cry and gnash their teeth. I looked at him for a long moment and then I just shook my head. I said to him, "Whatever happened to honor the Sabbath and keep it holy? Should you not be working today?" He grew visibly angry at this and yelled something about the Lord's wrath. I said to him, "Look, this is ridiculous. If you don't want to hear it, go work on the other side of the house or put in earplugs or something. I'm trying to enjoy my book." I then turned away at this point and left him standing there, presumably glaring at me over the fence. I was secretly a little worried that he would throw a tool at me or something, but I kept my profile to him and I waited him out. Finally, he snarled and just walked away. I heard the ladder clanking as he took it down and went to the other side of the house out of earshot. He worked for the rest of the morning, and when I returned from my afternoon walk around 2:00 p.m., his truck and trailer were gone. I haven't heard from my neighbors, and I don't intend to ever bring it up with them. But regardless, he did a great job on the gutters, even though he was trying to be controlling in a really weird way. Dude, I am a big fan of the original poster in this one. Good for you. I don't care what someone says. If you're on your own property and you're not making any kind of noise that's like unreasonable, then guess what? They have no say over what you can and can't do. And this guy's such a massive hypocrite because guess what? Absolutely, he should not be working on Sunday. If he really was this righteous Christian that he wanted to be, then he wouldn't be working on Sunday. Like, this guy's a complete clown. So seriously, good for you for standing up for yourself and not letting this weirdo control what you can and can't do. Especially the fact that he was trying to force his religion on you, which I think is incredibly messed up. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I've been lying to my friends about being broke just to avoid expensive hangouts, and honestly, it's the best decision I ever made. Here's what's going on. Okay, so this whole thing started last November when my transmission died on Highway 85 during morning rush hour, with the car being towed and being hit with repairs. Overall, this cost me $2,847. And suddenly, I was genuinely tight for money for the first time since college. But luckily, I won about $3,000 gambling, so I just handled it that way. When my coworker invited our usual group to that new steakhouse downtown, you know, the one where appetizers start at $18, I had to pass and say that I was just completely broke. My emergency fund recovered by February, but I kept using the broke excuse because I realized something weird. I was actually much happier. No more awkward bill splits or feeling obligated to hit up expensive bars just because it's somebody's birthday. Instead, I've been spending my money on stuff that actually gives me a rush. Like last weekend, I drove to this place about an hour away where they have these vintage arcade machines and you can play for hours on $20. It felt more alive than any overpriced dinner I've ever sat through. Now, my friends figured out that I'm not actually struggling anymore, but they've also stopped pressuring me about the group dinners. It turns out being the broke friend gave me permission to be picky about how I spend both my time and my money. I know it's dishonest, and sometimes I feel guilty when my girlfriend mentions how she misses having me at dinner, but honestly, I sleep better knowing that my money goes towards things that actually excite me instead of social obligations that drain me. Okay, honestly, I kind of see where you're coming from, especially with like the trend of people being like, oh yeah, let's go to this really expensive steakhouse. Like, dude, I can't afford that. That's way too much money. Like, I could understand like once a month, maybe at most, but to be expected to do that possibly multiple times a week, like that would be really obnoxious. So you know what? If this makes you happy, then by all means go for it. I don't think you're the jerk for doing that, and honestly, it sounds like it worked out in the end. Am I the jerk for telling my brother-in-law that he needs to book a hotel when he and my sister were staying at my house? Because after my brother-in-law has been hogging my bathroom nonstop, I'm honestly at my breaking point and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, my sister and her husband live across the country and decided that they wanted to come and visit. I live in a 2-bed, 1-bath, and I set up a bed in my home office because they wanted to stay at my house. And at this point, they had been here for 4 days. The bathroom has been a big problem. He spends hours in there. After the first day, I talked to my sister about it, and she says he has a condition where he needs the bathroom a lot, so I just let it rest. But on day 3, it was even worse. There was a time where I had to excuse myself to go to the store so that I could use the bathroom twice because he wouldn't leave. The last day, I woke up at 4 in the morning and I had to use the bathroom very badly. I knocked on the door and he said that he would be out in a minute. I told him I really had to go, but it literally took him an hour to get out. The nearby store wasn't open at that time, and I had to do something I am not happy I had to do because I couldn't wait. The next morning, I then told him he needs to get a hotel. I can't be blocked from using the bathroom in my own home because he takes it hostage. I get that he has a condition, but so do I. And I make sure that I have my own bathroom when I travel so I don't get in the way of other people needing the bathroom. My sister and her brother-in-law were very upset and called me ableist, but I told them what I had to do last night because he was in the bathroom for so long, and they said I could have held it. I told them they need to leave and find a hotel or stay with other family because he just cannot stay here anymore. So am I the jerk for telling my sister and brother-in-law this, or am I justified in my reaction? Because right now I'm still very frustrated. Okay, I'm sorry, but anyone who's going to the bathroom for over an hour has probably finished doing their business after like maybe 20 minutes and are then just sitting on their phone doing nothing but like scrolling TikTok or something like that. Like seriously, what's going on right now? This is crazy. Like if they really are using that much time because of a condition, then a hotel really would be the best case for anybody. And I think they would agree if that was the case. But in my opinion, it just seems seems like this guy is just, I don't know, doing whatever in the bathroom, and you can use your imagination there. So no, you're not the jerk for saying, hey, you gotta get a hotel, because what this guy's doing, in my opinion, is very obnoxious. Am I the jerk for choosing not to compensate my friend after she said I owe her money for the emotional stress that she went through in helping me move? And I'm honestly blown away by this entitlement, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So basically, I just moved across the country from the Midwest to the East Coast, and my friend tagged along. I didn't have room in my car for myself, my 2 cats, her, and her boyfriend, so she followed in a rental car, and I was able to put some stuff in the back of it. Now, all was seemingly going pretty well, and I got to my new place all right, and I unloaded both cars. However, this morning she came to my new place with her boyfriend with 10 minutes of lead time, which was already annoying, but I didn't have anything else to do, so it was fine. However, when she got to my place, she said something along the lines of, "Oh, this is a nice apartment. By the way, you should pay me a lot of money." Now, I was super confused, so obviously I asked what she meant by that. She clarified that the trip was exceptionally stressful for her, as she was constantly anxious, exhausted, and had panic attacks. She said that it was probably the worst time of her life, and that I needed to compensate her somehow. Well, this left me pretty speechless, as we only discussed me pitching in to help over the cost of her rental car, which, by the way, I paid for half. Her boyfriend then said that I needed to pay more because it wasn't just about the rental car. It was about her driving through the Midwest being visibly trans and having to go through the stress of finding safe bathrooms for 3 days of driving. We sat in awkward silence for about 10 minutes in my empty apartment before she randomly left my apartment without saying anything. So I kinda need to know, am I the jerk for refusing to compensate her? I don't think I should have to pay anything because I did not ask her to go. For reference, she asked me if she could tag along with her boyfriend. I already contributed for her rental, and I gave her a travel itinerary weeks before we left, so it wasn't like she didn't know where we were driving through ahead of time. I just feel like her anxiety and stress simply isn't my problem, and instead this should just be a life lesson for her not to volunteer to help someone move long distance. What should I do? No, you're not the jerk for turning her down. Screw that. There's no way that's appropriate. Are you kidding me right now? She's trying to be like, oh yeah, the stress of like moving you here is just too much, so you need to compensate me more financially or else this is just messed up. And it's like, dude, you already literally paid for the rental car. You paid half of it and that's all you agreed on. But now they're trying to shake you down for money right when you move in? Like, what are you talking about? You didn't even ask them to come along. You just said, oh yeah, here, tag along. By the way, I'll help you pay for the rental. Like, that's so stupid. Like, what are you doing? If you didn't want to help out, then why did you help out? And then after helping out, why'd you then be like, oh, I need more money, please? Like, that's not a friend. That's someone who literally is just a piece of garbage. So no, you're not the jerk here. Their feelings are their responsibility, and the fact that they're trying to monetize that is insane in my opinion. My girlfriend's toxic coworker is constantly making my girlfriend feel like garbage, but things really start to ramp up when she starts to be insufferable about her new engagement ring. So I decided to get some petty revenge by proposing to my girlfriend with an even better engagement ring, blowing this other lady's engagement ring completely out of the water. Here's how I did it. This happened years ago when my girlfriend, who's now my wife, was working a fairly physically demanding, potentially dangerous job with animals. There was another woman working with her, let's call her Karen for the sake of the story, who constantly shirked responsibilities and dumped extra work on my girlfriend, and generally made every day absolutely miserable. My girlfriend would come home tired, defeated, and not looking forward to any shift she had to work with Karen. One day, Karen came to work all smiles. She was engaged and so excited to show off the ring her fiancé had gotten her, and this went on for weeks. Now, not only was she an insufferable employee, but now she was also an insufferable person, flashing her ring and talking about it non-stop. Well, here's my sweet revenge. My girlfriend and I had been together about 3 years at this point, and I was indeed planning to propose. We hadn't discussed rings at all, so I took it upon myself to pick out the ring, and I decided to pick out an engagement ring that was superior to Karen's ring in every single way. Where Karen had gold, I had platinum. If she had 1 carat diamond, I had 1.7 carats. When it comes to the color and clarity, we got it as perfect as I could possibly get it. I also chose a particular type of cut that made the diamond especially sparkly. Now, how did I know the specifications? Because I would go to work functions and listen to her go on and on to anyone who would listen. My girlfriend and I went away on a long weekend, and when she returned to work and showed everyone in the break room her ring and announced her engagement, they were all super impressed except for Karen, who stormed out of the room and started crying in the hallway. Needless to say, she never talked about her ring again and would visibly scowl whenever she saw my girlfriend's ring. Karen left that job not too long after we were engaged, and I have no idea what happened to her, nor do I even care. But when I told my girlfriend why I went just a little bit overboard with her ring, she did say that was terrible, but she laughed when she said it. I love this, man. This is one of those like really good karma stories where it's like, okay, you got some good revenge. Because you know for a fact this Karen's like one claim to fame was having this ring in everybody's face and being like, oh yeah, look at this thing. This is so nice. And it's like, dude, this is so insufferable. You're just trying to make us all feel bad. So I seriously love the fact that you got back at her in such a fun way, because this clearly got under her skin when it shouldn't. This really should not have affected her at all. And the fact that it did is just so stupid in my opinion. An entitled Karen is quite literally trying to take my man from me. So I get some petty revenge by tricking her into dyeing her hair blonde. Here's how I did it. So there's this woman that I know, and she is quite frankly awful to be around, but entertaining enough to watch in small doses. She is a massive attention seeker. Drama follows her everywhere, yet she never quite realizes that she is the drama, because in her eyes, she is a creative and natural empath. She will go into a group of people having a normal old time, and suddenly everyone has enemies, relationship issues, and lives are falling apart. She comes across as a bit lonely and that she needs attention from men for her own validation. And you know what? She turned her sights on my man. He told me everything that was going on as it happened. I later heard by someone else that she was trash talking me. I know I'm making a whole post about her, but I genuinely do keep her at an arm's distance. She doesn't talk to me anywhere near enough to be forming opinions about me like this. So needless to say, I was not happy. But I also had an idea. Someone else around us recently had highlights in their hair. She has black hair, and I knew her hair couldn't handle heavy bleaching, and that it would grow out weirdly without the proper maintenance on her hair. So I made such a big fuss about how hot the woman with highlights looked. I talked about how blondes just have the it factor, and that it's totally a summer 2025 kind of look. I talked about how I wanted to go blonde, and I even made some of the guys agree that blondes were hot in front of her. Now this lady is impulsive, and she's attention seeking enough that I knew she would go blonde if I hyped it up enough. And you know what? That's exactly what she did. She doesn't have enough money for a proper hairdresser to do it, so she just did it at home. She did multiple rounds in the same day with box bleach, and her hair is now orange and fried. She has now turned it around and keeps asking the guys if she's still pretty, and everyone is being really nice towards her over it. But you know what? It looks terrible, and I definitely see a bob in her near future. Dude, I love this kind of revenge because you didn't get up in her face, you didn't like get pissed off at her. Instead, you decided to get petty and you literally ruined her image. And I just love stuff like that because my god, it sounds like she absolutely deserved it. I mean, what kind of scumbag is she? She was literally going after someone who was already in a relationship. Like, dude, what are you doing? That's off limits. You can't do that. So yeah, this lady absolutely deserved it, and I love the way that you handled this situation. Am I the jerk for evicting my friend of 12 years from my rental unit after he literally causes $5,000 in damages? Because right now I feel like an awful friend and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I let a friend of 12 years live rent-free in my rental unit after he fell on hard times. He lost his house and car and was dealing with custody issues. I don't judge because he had always been a loyal friend. In return for the free housing, I asked him to work on some repairs at the property. I covered the bigger expenses and he agreed to handle smaller costs like paint and wood. When I visited about 6 weeks later, he had only completed one task from a 12-task list. Now, I was a little frustrated, especially since he wasn't maintaining the yard either, but I gave him grace because of his personal issues. I voiced my frustration and I let him know that he'd still have about 2 more rent-free months after finishing the list, so there's no reason to stall if that was his worry. Then last night his girlfriend came over. They had been there drinking with a friend and it ended up with my unit being completely trashed. We're talking over $5,000 in damages. The glass patio door connecting to the kitchen was shattered, fresh tile and hardwood was ruined with sage paint, holes in the drywall and light fixtures were ripped out. I mean, I was furious, but I kept calm, and I asked him how long it would take to secure the door and fix the damages, this time on his dime. Well, he said he could board the door right away, but he would need about 3 months to fix everything, plus another 3 months to finish the original list. But you know what? That was way too long for me. I no longer trust him to stay there, especially considering this wasn't the first serious argument that he'd had with his girlfriend. One time, she even tried to run him over with her car. So I told him that he'd have 3 days to leave and had to sign a notarized letter confirming the notice and the damages. And I did that just to try and protect myself. And when I spoke to him, he didn't seem upset about it, but instead just sad. I know he has nowhere to go and was couch hopping before, but this is still my property and reputation within the neighborhood. I don't want to be associated with chaos. Ever since the incident, I've arranged to install security cameras, change the locks, and update the home security system. I'm not asking him to pay for any damages since we agreed on eviction. I mean, this was the only negative experience we've had in our friendship, so I'm wondering if I'm the jerk for kicking him out. Did I go too far having him sign an eviction letter, even though I never had him sign a formal lease? What should I do? Dude, this does not sound like a good friend at all. Like, I know you're trying to be like, oh yeah, we're friends, we've been friends forever, but like, look look around, dude. Let's read the room for a second. This guy caused $5,000 worth of damages. You really think this guy's your friend if he's gonna be doing crap like that? Like seriously, this is so uncalled for. This is unfair for you and your property. And I'm so glad you saw through his lies, because this guy was literally gonna try and live there for 6 more months. Not just to fix the damages that they did, but also do the things that he agreed to do in the first place. It's like, dude, what's going on? This is so stupid. So no, you're not the jerk. You did the right thing by kicking him out, because at this point, there really is no reason why he should stick around, as I really feel like this guy was just taking advantage of you. Am I the jerk for calling out my friend for re-gifting a present to me after she gave me a ring as a present that she literally bought for herself? Here's what happened. One of my closest friends gave me a birthday present. There were several small items, and the last thing I opened was a ring with a small citrine stone. I was immediately disappointed because I recognized this ring because my friend had bought it from a crystal shop for herself when we were on an out-of-town trip together. She didn't want it wrapped up. She wore it out of the store and she showed it to me as we left. I remember not liking it, but I still said something like, "Oh, that's nice." Now, I confirmed it was her ring by trying it on right away. You know, unless she was doing some kind of like best friend pair rings thing and had a matching one. But it immediately fell off my thumb, which is my biggest finger. She knows my ring size is 6 because for reference, she bought me a ring the previous year. And I know for a fact her ring size is 9. So that's when I knew that this was the ring she had bought for herself. I know I should be grateful for receiving anything at all, but I guess it was especially disappointing because I put a lot of time and thought into her presents, and her gifts really can be hit or miss. She saw it fall off my finger and then enthusiastically went into how she bought it in the city that we visited. Well, I couldn't help myself, and I replied in a quiet voice, "Well, I know I was with you when you wore it out of the store." Her memory isn't great at times, so I'm sure that she had forgotten this fact. She immediately denied it by saying, "No, I didn't," and then changed the subject and we just didn't mention it again. I do feel the more polite thing would have been to be more gracious and just thanked her for the gift. But on the other hand, I am the type to keep things bottled up and not talk about things that bother me, and I just can't help it because this really bothered me. So am I the jerk for calling this out? Because right now I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. No, I don't think you're the jerk, especially if you're close friends, because it really seems like this could have been more heartfelt, but instead she's like giving you something that she bought for herself. Like seriously, at least get me something that you think is gonna be sentimental. Like that is super annoying to be like, "Oh yeah, here's a gift for you that I bought from the city," and then she like conveniently forgets that, "Oh yeah, you were there for that, my bad." So yeah, your friend's an idiot and they definitely should not have done that. And if I was in your shoes and I knew this friend really well, I definitely would have called them out as well. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.